But he's got to stop it.
I guess I'm going to first ask everybody to just stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. So right now, we're going to be opening a continuation of a public hearing on the RV zoning municipal water supply definition. We actually had a meeting. We spoke about this. There were some concerns by some board members. We chose to hold it open while we tried to get some more clarity on some of the issues, and so that's what tonight's continuation is. We had invited at the suggestion of the attorney to invite our town engineer, to help clarify some of the questions and issues that some board members had relative to the municipal supply, water supply. So I'll open it up. If anybody in the public has anything they'd like to say, I'll let them speak first, and then if not, we'll invite George and Dave to the table to talk to the board about whatever issues they might have. So is there anybody here who would like to talk? And our building inspector, Stacy's here also, who drafted the interpretation of the definition? Made an interpretation of the definition.
Offered an interpretation.
Right. Okay, so as there is nobody for the moment who would like to speak, oh, Paul.
I'm making the form of comment. I wish I knew more about the distinction between the water definition and the sewer definition. Was there a change in the sewer definition? Is this the same? The definition of municipal and its impact on infrastructure? Is water and sewer wrapped up together? I hear the word water now, but I think the law in the RD talks about water and sewer being municipal. That's what I wish. That's a comment,
Okay.
not a question. I get it.
So lucky you, the engineer and the attorney are here. They have heard your question, and maybe when they come up to the table, they can clarify exactly what you're asking. So does anybody else have anything they would like to say? Okay, then with that, I'd like to invite Stacy, our building inspector, and George Lithgow, our planning board attorney, who also is advising the town on different issues, and Dave Clauser, our town engineer, to come to the table to first potentially answer Mr. Brown's question or query, and then to address some of the issues that I think Councilman Barry had the last time we had a conversation, and any other questions that some board members might have. And maybe Dan needs
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I thought we made that. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I thought I already did that.
No, we left it open.
Well, I thought I made the motion to open it.
No, you just opened it.
Oh, well, with that being corrected by our junior councilman, would you like to make a junior council
Well, I think we
person?
left it open, though.
We left it open. Don't we have to make a motion, though, to...
Oh, and me? Okay, good. Okay, just
Okay, just make a motion.
I'd
Dan,
like to make the motion
To
to
continue.
open or continue the public hearing.
do I have a second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Thank you. Okay, are you okay, Ira?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Dave, would you like to come up? George, would you like to come up? Stacy, would you like to come up? Now, let me just very quickly, Dan, do you understand what this is all about, or do you need an explanation for what this is about?
You know, I chatted a little bit with Councilman Barry before the meeting. I
Okay.
had a little bit of understanding coming in, but
Okay.
I wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about it as well.
Okay, so would you like us to do a little bit of a background first, and then we'll get into the conversations?
If you wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay, do you want to, George,
Okay.
take the microphone? Even though I can do it, but...
In the town has what's called a residential variable district. That requires a variety of things. It permits denser development, and it has been implemented twice to my knowledge, 3 times actually, but it's been withdrawn once. So the Meadowbrook project is in an RV zone, and the Park Point project will be, or is in an RV zone that was created sometime in way in the past. At least I think it's been around since 1995, which is longer than I've been around. In the town as the attorney, so I can't tell you when it was created, but it has been created, and the project is proceeding forward under that zoning. The RV zone has a requirement for water and sewer. It requires a municipal water supply, and it requires a sewer system that's designed and approved by the agency with jurisdiction, which I think is referenced in the code as Ulster County Health Department. So the problem that emerged is that when the RV zone was created and first contemplated, I think it was pretty clear that the town intended that it would be located close to the village and would probably utilize the village water supply. That would certainly be feasible, would have been feasible for the Park Point property in the past. The village was willing to supply water. It had plenty of water through the aqueduct, and basically properties could engage in an out-of-village transaction and acquire a water supply that way. The New York City water supply is subject to a restriction. It requires that properties that are outside the municipality that's receiving service from New York City essentially be within a district. So at some point, I think this came to the village's attention, and they adopted a law which requires properties that seek water supply, and I believe sewer as well, to annex to the village. And that was one problem for the Park Point project. The other problem for the Park Point project is one that the village shares, which is the water supply is going to be interrupted for long periods of time, starting, I believe, in 2016. And the village has to come up with a backup supply for its existing customers, let alone new customers. In the Park Point's case, that's a fairly substantial supply. So putting all that together, the paradox was the use that was permitted required a municipal supply, but the past or the anticipated sources of that supply were not available. Because even though you could have a town district, town has, I think, 4 districts now.
Right.
They're supplied by the village as well. So the town has also got to seek a new source of supply for its existing districts, and those are located some distance from the RV zone. So the supply was not available from the village. It was not available through a town district that was already established. And the problem that came up is if the town establishes a district, it's essentially serving this one property. Which doesn't really make sense for the town. It incurs responsibility. Doesn't make sense for the property owner because it acquires the additional cost of having the town do it. So looking at the code itself, there is no definition for a municipal water supply. But what seems to be the intent of that requirement is to ensure that in these denser developments, there is an adequate source of supply, and that supply is properly managed and able to provide necessary water for a development that may not only have the need for drinking water, but may need it for fire protection as well. So looking at the code and looking at the potential for providing that assurance, what seemed to be appropriate would be the creation of a town district. That town district could have the right to take over the system if it was not managed properly, which would provide the assurance that there was a municipality which had the ability to provide the supply that was necessary without creating the obligation for it to do so. So the building inspector and I discussed this, and it appeared to be an appropriate way of interpreting that requirement. It does create a municipal supply, and that was the interpretation that was issued at the developer's request. The developer asked, what do we need to do? And gave us various options, and that seemed to be one which accomplishes the town's purpose without burdening either the town or the development with the cost of operating a system as long as it's being maintained properly. So the next problem became that was an interpretation issued to the developer of the Park Point property for that particular project and would bind that, it would apply to that project. But there is, at least, there was one other district that briefly, that existed for some period of time, next to the golf course. There was an interest in developing that property for, under the RV zoning, and there was also, I believe in that case, there was a town district that was created for that purpose, which never actually operated. It's essentially a backup district. So there was that developer, there was someone else who came in for a conceptual meeting with the planning board chair and expressed interest in using the RV zone. And to be fair and ensure this was uniformly applied, we thought it was appropriate to consider a zoning amendment for that purpose, particularly since there is no possibility that the village can supply water now, and because of the interruption with the existing town districts. So it's an attempt at a solution.
Okay.
But it's also, in a way, there was the interpretation, and now what was suggested to us was that we codify it into our zoning. So we're taking the interpretation of the building inspector, which in of itself, Park Point asked for something, she did an interpretation, they're now bound by her interpretation. So we can't go back and change anything relative to Park Point. Moving forward, how do we want to deal with other projects that might want to come forward? And so it was recommended that we put this into our zoning code or completely change it, which I don't think we're looking to do, but
Right, George, can you just explain to him quickly that the RV district is an overlay district? The RV district is an overlay district.
She's
The R-
explaining it well for me.
The RV district is an overlay district, okay? So anyone who owns land within the town, okay, could request this overlay district to the town board. And the town board has the option to say yes or no. So because the RV is an overlay district, and there may only be sections now that are currently zoned with the RV overlay, okay, there potentially could be others within the town as well. So this is not being brought to the board for, 3 parcels or 4 parcels. I mean, this is an overall problem with an overlay district.
And that's an additional protection for the town, because the town has to create this district now, and it has to also approve the creation of the backup water district, and it has to approve a takeover agreement by which it would take over the system in the event, in stated circumstances. And at the minimum, the stated circumstance would be the failure to provide an adequate and safe supply of water.
So George, I have a question for you. Let's fast forward 5 years. DEP is done. We have a beautiful new water supply.
hopefully.
How many districts do we have? And how many more do we need to create? If any?
That would,
We can do extensions to existing districts. The districts that we have are around the business portion of the town, down to the high school, and there's one across the thruway.
Hold on 1 second, Dave. It doesn't seem like we can bring it to you closer because, yeah.
Okay. There's 4 districts. The biggest district is right in the business center. Another district is across the thruway. There's one that goes down to the high school. Then there's one on North Putt that's a little farther north. So I think it's a matter of the way I expect the population to grow is from kind of the center out. I think it's going to be a matter of extensions of those districts for new developments that come in.
So do we consolidate those?
Kevin, can you just move the microphone closer?
Do we consolidate those districts?
The reason they're separate is they were formed at different times and they had different infrastructure capital costs to start with. Many of the districts now have their capital costs paid off, so they could be consolidated. Before that, there were bonds on different districts, so it's possible.
Okay.
George, Paul Brown had asked a question, or Dave specifically. specific to the RV and sewer and water, and we're talking specifically about water. And would you be able to answer the question that he posed?
Well, I was just looking at the provision of the code, and it says, shall be served by municipal water supply facilities and wastewater treatment facilities as approved by the county, the state, and municipal agencies and the county health department. As that reads, at the very least, it's ambiguous as to whether municipal applies to the wastewater facilities. That's a principle of the zoning law that if there's ambiguity, it's construed in favor of the private property owner. So, as it reads, it's definitely got to be municipal water supply.
So it's definitely
And there is no-
water supply, which is
Have we
why
had any interpretations of that language in the past?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Now, also in the past, though, we probably should have done this when the core was developed.
Yes.
So Dan, the issue is the one up there at the
Bellaterra.
thank you.
Sure.
We call it the apple core. The reuse of the apple core, and we have an issue there where they have a water supply and a sewer supply, and should Bellaterra ever decide to fail, what would we do?
If Bellaterra should ever decide to fail?
Or not just should fail?
If the water supply failed, you should create a district.
Or
Presumably-
actually, if the corporation that owns Bellaterra should fail, what would we do? Say the corporation fails, dries up, and the residents are left sitting there.
You talking about the well drying up or the?
Or, no, the corporation dissolves.
That would be a different,
What would we do as the town to ensure that they have adequate water and adequate sewer?
You could take over the system. You could create a district. The owners could petition, or you can create a district on your own motion. If you determine it's in the public purpose to do that. Just because someone's well fails doesn't mean you have to create a district, go in and provide the water supply. But if there is public purpose to it, you can do that. You can do it without, effectively without the owners or the property, the occupants having to initiate the process, and you can make that determination.
so you create the districts essentially to capitalize the project, build it out, and then the costs are paid by the users in that district.
Right.
So the districts are created so that people outside the district aren't responsible for any of their costs.
Yes, and I think that matter was brought to the town's attention recently.
But then, from what I understand with what we're trying to do, is by doing this definition and codifying Stacy's interpretation, we're doing it in such a way that there's got to be a conversation with the town. It's got to be built to our specifications. So if we should ever agree to basically take it over, we're taking over a system that was designed to our specifications, and we're not being forced to take over a system that's not up to our standards that now we're stuck with. So in a way, from what I understand, that's pretty much why we're doing what we're doing, is because the zoning says there's got to be a municipal water system, but there's no mechanism for it. Stacy's definition created it, and her definition created it to say they can create it based on our specifications, and at some point, we could enter into a contract to take it over, in essence, right?
Or,
Yes, it protects the town.
right.
Yes, it protects the town.
Well, I see that as an option, but I also see maybe a more comprehensive option is to build out a concept for our own future system, which is using our professionals here and have them with the information they've already gotten from the DEP and some of their preliminary test borings to run that out a little bit more, and then maybe develop a comprehensive plan, and then we see how these little end users, well, actually big end users, fit into that puzzle. I mean, are they a critical puzzle piece or not, based upon what we're going to be doing in the future? So what you do is you develop the general comprehensive scheme first, instead of doing these little ad hoc things now, especially given the fact that we're moving ahead with this community water system. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm good.
You want to go first? Or Dave, or should we let Dave go first?
The DEP is funding right now an investigation for water. We're concentrating first right over close to where the mains come down and feed the village, trying to find water there because it would be cheap to connect into that. Also, part of that study is we're trying to figure out how much we have, how much more we need, basically. If we don't find enough in that area, then we're going to be looking at groundwater, at rock wells, groundwater rock wells. We have several properties on this side of the river that have offered access to drill, and they believe that they have water on the property. So it's a matter of being able to find enough water. We need 1 million gallons a day. It's harder to find as much water in rock wells as it is in the groundwater wells. So the bedrock wells are the ones that we'll be going to after we see how much we've got in the groundwater and the gravel wells.
How soon do you think that'll be done, Dave? In the next several months?
Our contract ends in June, and we're really after it right now.
Okay, so-
Done quite a bit, more to go.
All right.
What I was asked to clarify in the code where it says water supply and sewage, each dwelling unit shall be served by municipal water supply facilities and wastewater treatment facilities. So are you saying it's ambiguous because it doesn't say municipal water supply facility and municipal
Yes.
wastewater treatment?
That's what he said.
Or the fact that it says municipal water supply facility and wastewater treatment is saying municipal water supply, waste treatment, so municipal is referring to both?
He's saying that municipal applies just to the water and not to the
No,
sewer.
no, what I'm thinking, if you
Yeah.
could just look at the little thing below C, and just, well, the question was about the ambiguity of it, and so as another lawyer, if you like.
Well, I'll tell you, it can go either way.
And that is why it is ambiguous.
Great lawyer.
Yes.
That's why we have court cases.
Okay. Well, anyway, for the purposes of how we handle Park Point in of itself with the water and the sewer is a conversation independent, technically. The conversation of how we handle Park Point's municipal water and/or municipal sewer is a conversation for a separate time, and we're not there, and we're not here tonight to discuss it. Tonight, we're here to discuss, in this public hearing, the potential adoption of a definition for municipal water supply. So I guess that's what we should keep our focus on, is do we feel comfortable with what's being brought forward, how the zoning is being rewritten to codify the building inspector's interpretation? Do we feel comfortable codifying that into law?
After thinking about what I just read a little bit, obviously, it doesn't make sense that you would have a paragraph where you would split off one infrastructure aspect from another. It seems to me that it should be read as collective, municipal water and sewer. It doesn't make sense that you would require a municipal water system and then have a private sewer system. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's number one. Number two, I'm in favor of working on developing a more comprehensive municipal water supply so that we don't have to create a new idea or a new definition, so that you can bootstrap yourself into a situation that we didn't create. We as a town board didn't really create the situation we're in once the village said that you people in the town really can't get access to water unless you're annexed. That wasn't our doing. So now that we're in a position maybe to develop a municipal water supply, I'm on the fence here. I might be inclined to wait
Okay, let me just,
instead of changing the
okay,
definition.
so let me just, there is no definition, we're trying to,
Well,
that's,
instead of changing, well, I can back up. Instead of changing the interpretation that's been given, or in changing the interpretation that's been given, one way or the other. You follow me?
Well, let me ask a question, okay? And I know where you're trying to get to, but let me try to go around it a different way. First, if the definition that you gave, your interpretation, that could
The
be,
interpretation or the definition? There's two separate
well,
things.
we're codifying your interpretation into a
Well,
definition,
let's talk about the
Yes.
interpretation then.
right? I-
Go with the I guess, I don't even, like, I'm always too loud anyway. I just, to Kevin's point, though, and I've had this discussion with both our professionals here and even with Stacy, is, or maybe I haven't had it all with Stacy, is one is, it's making me rethink how we look at RV zones, one thing. And because this is something we could see again in an RV zone, because this one RV zone we're talking about now still will have acreage available for development. Another RV zone, I guess, is pretty much done because of its location, Huguenot Street, because of floodplain.
It's no longer on the zoning map that you adopted in 2010.
Right, that one. So that RV is, that RV district,
Is gone.
there could be other development there, though.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that we want to, this is a small piece, but I do want to hear Stacy's interpretation, definition. Is there anything else to it? Because I'm wondering if we're looking at a much bigger piece here, and I almost feel like we're sitting here trying to change something almost that we don't need to. Again, this wasn't something that was imposed upon us as much, yeah, and there's probably both two different definitions I want to hear. Not everybody is. I want to hear both definitions that you have. But this was imposed upon us, to Kevin's point, but I don't believe we need to react to it at this moment, because it looks like we have a few other pieces we could fit in, and we may end up changing a lot of other zoning besides just this. I ended up with a question mark.
Well, actually, the question that I was trying to get to, in a sense, was just getting to something in a different way. Right now, we have a zoning ordinance that says you have to do something, but it's not complete because you can't do it. So you're just trying to get a definition. So my first question is, could that definition or interpretation, or whichever one, whatever, apply the same language to sewer, municipal sewer? I mean, you have to basically build it to the town spec, and we could enter into a contract. So could you not make what we're trying to do right now work for both a definition for water and a definition for sewer? Because Kevin's absolutely right. If there's ambiguity, and we're right now trying to clear up ambiguity, let's clear it up. So could we not, and would we want to use that same definition you're recommending for both water and sewer? That's my first question, but then I'll get to whether we want to do this or not second. And if you, that's too tough of a question to ask on the spot, I'm sorry, I didn't,
It's not.
okay.
No, go ahead, let George
Okay.
speak first.
A couple of thoughts. One is that what you're dealing with on some of these projects is a legacy. Zoning was created sometime in the 1980s, and it was created with certain facts and circumstances in place. It has changed since then. But you only have 3 of those districts. One is developed, one has a development proposal in place, and one has disappeared. So the legacy parts of this should not, I think, be the focus. The question of going forward means you have to adopt, you have to confer the zoning designation upon property. Once that's done, and in that process, you can make conditions and you can say, this is how you need to do this. If you wish and you believe in the circumstances, it's appropriate to have a municipal wastewater treatment plant there. You can make that requirement. You can adopt a requirement similar to a standby district. You can create it, because you may not want to serve the wastewater requirement for one property, like Park Point, for example, unless there's a greater public benefit. Because that means if you acquire that facility and you're operating it, you're responsible for the consequence. And there should not be a consequence, but then it's your obligation. So you have, I think, an option of it's almost a cake and, having your cake and eating it, in the sense that you have the ability, you have the opportunity, but you don't have the obligation, unless you determine it's either necessary or it's something that you wish to do because there is a purpose to expanding that sewer plant and extending it to other properties, and that's the more traditional function of a district. It's not to serve one particular property, it's to serve a conglomeration of properties that need water and sewer, or sewer.
Shouldn't we have all that in place first? A plan for how you would serve not just one property, but any additional properties that would require municipal water or sewer in the future. I mean, why are we, getting back to your point about why would you want to...
Kevin, you need to use the...
Why would you want to operate? You just made a point. I think your point was, it might not make sense for a municipality to operate a sewage system for one user without any expansion possibility. So why do that on the water side? Why have all these single purpose entities serving one client when you can just develop a uniform system that services all of them?
I think there's two reasons I can think of. First, the fact that you design a system means you have to build it unless someone else does it. Having someone who is interested in pursuing a plan that requires municipal water and sewer build a system that will be operated by them until such time as it's necessary to expand it means you don't have the obligation to build it.
But suppose, George, we identified a spot where you could put a facility that would service a broad area. And you would say to your developer, well, you're going to contribute $3 million to this. What's the difference?
The difference is you need a developer.
Right. But
If you don't
they're
have one-
spending the $3 million anyway, right? Or whatever the number is.
Well, it's chicken and egg. If they come in and they say, we would like to do this RV project, we understand it requires municipal water and sewer, you can at that point say, what's the planning objective we're accomplishing?
My point is, if we had a plan in place already, we're finally to a point now where our light industrial zone is going to get some basic stuff. But why don't we have a plan in place? Why don't we get our engineer and some other people and put a plan in place, decide where things should be, and then use that as the model for having them contribute?
You can do that too, but that doesn't mean that the property owner over here who wants to do an RV project will come in and will fit into that plan.
See, I don't see the difference. If you have an interest in building a project and you know what your infrastructure costs are going to be, it doesn't matter if you spend them on your property or you contribute the money to a municipal project that's going to offer you the same service.
No, if you're there and you want to do something, there's nothing, if someone comes in and says, I'd like to do RV, and here's what I propose to do for water and sewer, there's nothing that prevents you from directing Dave to look at that property, that proposal, and determine whether the proposed system is something the town would build or would accept, whether the town should put a system that could serve that property somewhere else, and having that developer pay what he would have paid to build his system towards yours. That's a logical outcome of this all, and there's nothing inconsistent, I think, with this notion of amending the RV zone. The problem is, until you do all that stuff, people are not necessarily going to be looking for development opportunities. The RV is, as I understand it, was intended as an overlay that could promote denser development. It could tag it essentially so it would be in proximity to the existing water and sewer systems, and it would promote that kind of denser development that was identified in the 2010 comprehensive plan as an objective for this portion of the town. But that 2010 plan is now,
But this shows good encouragement why I think I want to relook at RV and our zoning, because here's a perfect example of, and I'll just use this RV zone, of an entity coming in. I'm not concerned about them building the water and sewer to standards, because they have to follow Department of Health standards, and their engineers have showed they're more than willing to work with our planning board to build a good site. But our view of the RV, actually, we were excited a few years ago because the applicant first started with the PUD, which would actually give us development there that would create jobs and tax revenue, and now it's turning into dormitories. So now it's almost taken my view of this RV district, I'm saying, well, this isn't what I viewed the RV overlay district as. I viewed the RV overlay district as a district that we would develop to, what Kevin's saying is, maybe we would develop a water and sewer for it to encourage to bring in developments that would benefit all the community, not just a segment of the community. So I'm just concerned now that we're doing something that's just going to maybe benefit potentially a segment, and we're segmenting out a benefit here for an individual user, which is, I think, kind of where we started this conversation.
well, just
Yeah, okay,
the,
that was not legal advice, by the way, that was town council advice, thank you.
when you say it's being done for an individual user, it's being done so an individual user can proceed forward, but the creation of the backup district and the offer dedication and the takeover agreement is contemplated to allow you the option of taking it when you believe it's necessary to serve a public purpose and a public function and accomplish planning or zoning goals that you have.
Now, they can go forward with or without us doing this, though, correct?
The Park Point project could, yes.
Okay.
I have to say, too, that you have to recognize that if you have a place for a sewage treatment plant, for example, let's say it's off of South Putt, and you have a project that wants to come in on Jansen Road, and it's a good project, for them to pipe from Jansen Road to the South Putt plant would be that much less that they can contribute as opposed to them developing their own. So there is some location that needs to be taken into account there. We can't, you know, we do our best to try to line up the areas of development, and something could show up on a parcel outside of that that's really a good development that you wouldn't want to hamstring.
So we sit here and continue our planning. How could and I'll use the current developer, how could they go ahead? Like, what are their steps in an easy fashion?
Currently, the developer would have to proceed forward with the design of the system, petition the town for the creation of the backup district, and provide a takeover agreement that would be acceptable to the town board.
And now all of those are all in provisions of our law, current zoning.
They are the consequence of the interpretation.
Okay.
There is no provision that specifies how it gets.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. But consequence of, does that scare you, Kevin?
No.
No. Well, that's the interpretation, and because of the interpretation,
Yeah, no,
that's what they now have
But
to
see,
operate under.
the last
Now,
thing you want to do is argue over an interpretation. So that's why we're trying to codify this definition or this interpretation to avoid any argument over the interpretation.
Go ahead.
So why would we want to do anything right now until we figure out what we want to do going forward?
That is totally up to you.
can I'd like to just point something out, because that might influence.
Well, you might want to be careful, too.
Well, no, but this might influence why you might want to do this and might not want to do this, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong legally, what happened was when Stacy made her interpretation, the
We still
applicant...
don't know what that is yet, by the way. Go ahead.
No, the interpretation is exactly what we're talking about, is the fact that they have to create a water system to our specifications designed by our engineer or with our engineer's help, and then there's a backup agreement if and when we should want to take it over, there's a contract in place for that.
Was it a long sentence like that, or was it shorter?
It was probably more complicated.
The definition is the sum of the interpretation.
Okay.
There's no difference.
But that's basically the essence of the interpretation, right?
You had to
Yes.
make your interpretation because the town or the village changed the way they offered their municipal water supply, correct?
We had to make the interpretation because the town could not supply.
Because it wasn't available from
You
the
got to look into
village,
the...
Correct.
the way it was
Yes.
previously.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now I just want...
So it wasn't self-imposed.
Okay.
No.
No, okay, so just so you understand, again, how we might want to proceed, the applicant, because of the ambiguity and because they can't have a municipal backup, so we had to say, what's a municipal backup, how do we proceed? Stacy gave an interpretation. They then challenged her interpretation and took it to the ZBA to challenge it, okay? Because of the timeline, they went too late. And so we all know judges like to throw things out on procedure. So the ZBA said, too late, we're not going to make an interpretation, Stacy's interpretation stands. So in essence, if they had gotten it done in time, okay, under the time frame, they could have then chosen how to interpret it to say, yes, we agree with Stacy's interpretation, or no, we don't agree, do another interpretation. So in a way, all I'm just saying is, if we, and I don't care if we do it or not, I really don't, but all I'm saying is, if we do it, we're putting into the code her interpretation, and now it's not ambiguity. If we don't do it and somebody should come forward, or whatever, at some point it could go back to the ZBA. So I think in a way, it didn't get dealt with at the ZBA only because of the time clock, but it could have gotten dealt by the ZBA, and we would be sitting here talking, in a sense, to an extent. So I'm just saying that we could make the distinction that, yes, we'll go with this for now. We could then step back and do everything that you want to do, but we know at least her interpretation is codified. Or we could step back, not do it, and then at another point, we could be taken out of the equation. Is that a correct sort of
That
somewhat?
was the concern.
Right.
The last thing you want a judge to do is tell you how to set up your water supply.
In what year?
It'll take a while.
But there's another factor too that, looking at it from a development point of view, and Dave can, add to this too, is that we currently have an RV district where Park Point is, okay? Bella Terra is also in an RV district, okay? There is potential for development along the 32 South corridor up to the it's R1, up to South Putt Corners, okay? So 32 South up to South Putt Corners. There's a lot of potential for development there, okay? The governor has come down recently and enacted this tax-free zone, okay? Although this definition is just for the RV overlay district. If you had a water system built by a developer, let's say, at the Park Point site, then you had another developer that came to the town and said, I have a project. It's located here. We're going to go to the end of South Putt Corners Road on Route 32 South, okay? I'd like to build condominium units for seniors. I need an RV overlay district. It's a project that the town really likes. When the district is formed, the district doesn't need to necessarily encompass just that one parcel. Is that correct?
Doesn't necessarily, no.
Okay, so if a district is formed, if a district is required to be formed here, it can encompass all of this, okay, taking into consideration your planning, so that if something in the future comes down the line, it's within that district. The town at that point can say, we have reason to take this system over now, extend that water system, and those users become part of that, are within that district. I mean, that's, or these people can create their own, like the definition, and at some point, they can be tied together. And again, the town has the option to take those systems over.
Just one more thought about that. One of the things the town does not want to do is go back and try and create a district on a subdivision or some other divided ownership, because then you wind up with the 1 out of 10 owners that has an issue with it. And
Say that again, George, I didn't follow you there.
there's an advantage to doing this prospectively, to working with a property owner now who is contemplating a development and saying, create the district now, do your development. If at some point in the future we decide it needs to be operated as a district, serving your property and other properties, we'll decide, we'll take it over pursuant to the takeover agreement, and we'll go forward without further discussion. That's you and one unified ownership, rather than trying to convince.
But if I could just clarify, that's already, I mean, that's already going to have to happen if the project proceeds, because we're living under Stacy's interpretation, so they're going to have to operate under that anyway.
No, this is talking prospectively for future projects that may come in and say, we'd like RV, or for that matter, just say we'd like municipal water and sewer.
Well, I guess, I mean, again, we're still just trying to define right at the moment if we need to accept the definition, if we need to accept the definition now and codify it in there, or we just don't do anything for the moment. We know that the Park Point project has to operate under Stacy's interpretation. We just don't do anything for the moment, and
Doing nothing is an option, but what I think is useful about doing it for prospective purposes is that if there are people out there who think I could use RV, but it requires municipal supply, the village is shutting down, the town can't extend, there's no reason for me to go further with this. This clarifies for them that there is one option,
Okay, so
which they can come in, they can create the system, do the work, and we can decide if it's necessary, appropriate to take over.
in this process of creating this system that we're talking about, have we thought about how we'd want, have we thought about how we could expand its coverage? Have we thought about that already? Because I would think we'd want to think about that first, wouldn't we? I mean, I know Dave is busy with thousands of projects here, but if you're going to go ahead and encourage somebody to build a private system that can be taken over in the future, it seems to me that it should fit within the framework that you want or you foresee going forward. Doesn't that make sense?
If it's a development that, I guess, needs enough water usage to make it cost-wise work for them to develop their own system, I'm thinking that if that well is going to be that big, we want it. That's kind of the simple way of saying that. If it's more than 50 gallons a minute, the town really wants it. It would be something that we could really plug into a future system.
But simultaneously, I'm not 100% sure by doing this that we're necessarily encouraging people to necessarily do the development. All we're just saying is, this is your option for municipal water if you should use the RV district. So therefore, they know that there's a way they can do it. They could choose whether to go forward or not, but it's still the town board who has the option whether they want to create that RV district. So you really only
do it would be to build their own private water supply to town specs.
Right. With the fact that they have to enter into an agreement for the town. If at any point we want to take it over, we take it over.
Or the town builds...
Talking to you.
I am.
Not as much as he...
Or the town builds its own system, right?
Okay.
Okay.
But in that definition, we could choose to build our own system, but for the moment, if somebody wants to do an RV, wants to do something in the RV zoning, they have to have municipal water, but there's no definition of what municipal water is, because it's not provided. And so this is a definition saying that's what it is, but we could say we're not interested in your RV project right now in your water system because
Right.
we're taking a step back because we're developing a system and we'll see later how it all fits in. But if there's a really good project that might be coming down the pike that we don't know about, you know, that we might want, there's clear definition, it's like, okay, we're interested in proceeding and going to the town board and talking to them because they have clarity. But
I
we still
think
ultimately have the total power in our hands.
I agree with you. The key word is clarity. And as we get more clarity, there will be more clarity.
So, it's now 15 minutes into this conversation. If we're going to do nothing, we should stop the conversation. If we think we might do something, we can continue the conversation. But is there more questions or? So what we can do is, if everybody's comfortable, I would like a motion to close the public hearing.
One question for George.
I'd like to rescind my motion to close the public hearing.
Are there any, once we close the public hearing, are there any limitations on when we have to take action or not?
No.
Okay.
So I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Thank you, guys. But we have to open the meeting and then do a couple of things, but then, before you leave, George, we have to add something to the agenda, which is the EV, so we can talk about it in a second, but we have to go through process first. So why don't you guys just stay here for 30 seconds? I'd like a motion to open the town board meeting.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, in terms of the agenda, what I need to do is add on authorization. Okay, well, first, for us to set a public hearing, to set the continuation of the public hearing for the electric vehicle charging stations. If you remember correctly, we had a public hearing, but we hadn't gotten our response back from the county planning board, so we did not close it. We've gotten the response back. George will update us on that, but then we need to set the continuation so then we can take action on the electric vehicle charging station. So we need to add that to the agenda. We need to add authorization for the youth center director to purchase $1,500 worth of tickets for Six Flags outside of the procurement policy, because you can't get 3 bids for Six Flags. And then authorization to pay the master plan consultant, Kurt LaValla, the $5,000 per the contract as itemized, and which will be reimbursed by the village, and we're doing this outside the warrant, so we need to do that. And what we need to do is take off the agenda the Justice Court office pay. The 2 justices weren't able to make it tonight, and so they asked us to remove that and to put it on in February. So unless anybody else has anything else they would like to add, and notice, Kevin, I'm not adding adopting the RV zone tonight.
And the one contract, I don't know if you have, the SWAG contract, I don't know if we got the new copy of.
Yeah, we do. I have them all. I mean, it was on. It was put on the website on the agenda, but I did make copies anyway. Okay, and
Are we going to talk about a resolution on Park Point?
it's on the agenda. It says Park Point Legal Strategy.
Oh, look at that.
And
Does it say?
it was on there, and then I don't know how it got.
Not on mine.
Resolution. Okay, it was supposed to.
just forget it.
Resolution for Park Point.
Oh, wait, here we go.
Okay.
The new one.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
updated today, huh?
Updated.
Doesn't the new one say it? Yeah.
Yes, it does. It's on the number 1.
Park Point legal strategy for ID.
Yeah, no, but we also had the
So that
resolution.
encompasses within
Well,
the
we do have the resolution, okay, but anyway, we could put resolution, but we have the resolution for Park Point tonight, okay? So with that, do I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended? Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's time for public input. If anybody is going to use public input, I don't know if that microphone is on, so
I will gladly donate my microphone.
we can take Kevin's microphone or something. So is anybody here for public input? Okay, so Amanda, if you could just grab Kevin's microphone, maybe it'll reach out there. Is that one on? Can you turn that one on? Okay, why don't you hold on? He's going to get you the microphone, and
I mean, I'm pretty loud.
but it's really also for the TV audience.
I'm gonna act like a rock star.
You look like one.
I'm Amanda Sissonstar. I think I forgot to say that last time, but I think everybody knows by now. So I mean, I've already given you my official public comment, but this is just some additional input since we'll probably be discussing this tonight. Just a couple of things after, hearing everything at the hearing and reading the follow-up article that was was in the New Paltz Times. I just wanted to add that I do absolutely support proposed changes to the police commission. Both commissioners, officers, police chief, town board, pretty much everyone has said there are things that need to be fixed. There are, communication breakdowns, problems with the chain of command and who's in charge of what. And so, those things are things that need to be worked on and need to be improved. And I do also want to say that, obviously there's not always going to be complete agreement between those three bodies, the town board, the police commission, and the police department, and that it is a sign of a healthy democracy and healthy checks and balances for the town board, the police commission, and the New Paltz Police Department not to always agree. And then, that's where the community comes in and weighs in, and then those bodies come together and decide what's best for the community with community input. So I absolutely support any changes that might be made and exploration of those problems and research of those problems. I know there was, I think it was the police chief that made a comment regarding, what's the difference between volunteers who are appointed and the town board, considering it's the town board that appoints them. And it is an interesting point, and I would support, and again, this may not be legally feasible with, the state regulations regarding police commissions, but making the police commission elected positions as opposed to appointed positions, or maybe partly appointed, partly elected. That is one way we could address some of those issues. And again, clarifying the chain of command, specific roles and responsibilities and authorities of the chief, the police commission, the town board, and have that clearly outlined and available to the public, either because it's going to be outlined in the code, or having it outlined very clearly on the police commission page or the police department page, so both police officers, the chief, the public, everyone can really understand exactly what decision gets made by whom and how. But in the meantime, while we're continuing to evolve and improve as a community and its representation, we must keep the police commission running while we engage all parties involved and the public in a discussion and process to improve the relations and operations of the police commission and the police department.
Thank you. So if you can hand the microphone off, and Paul, if you could stand for the camera, for the TV audience outside.
My name is Paul Brown. I'm glad to see the thoughtful approach of the board to changing the definition. It seems the current issues are solved for the applicant, for the board. I really appreciated Kevin's look at the broader look. We know that there may be a new proposal coming through for a 50-acre site by the Thruway. The water park and hotel is the latest that I've heard about, the real estate people in town have heard about, and friends have heard about. That was an opportunity for us to fix Sewer 6 if Crossroads, an old project, but we do have all the DEIS, all that stuff. And by the way, whatever applicant goes in, maybe we can save them some money and the town some money, but not reinventing the wheel. Those water studies, I'd like to save both the town applicants money, so if someone comes forth with a good proposal for the town, that would be another place where we can get a sewer. We almost had a sewer at one time. The town, the economy fell out. We were moving ahead. I don't know if the project would have been approved by the planning board. So I think if the town waits on this, there's no harm, no foul. A lot of things are going on. The dust will settle. We're certainly going to know more, and not in years, but in 2 or 3 months, to know what to do with definition. So thanks for your deliberation.
Okay, thanks very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? If you can, Paul, hand the microphone over to Ira. Okay, but you need to use the microphone. But do you want to stand by the?
Hello. A couple of things. I apologize.
Ira, can you just switch it over a little? No, turn the podium itself so this way, because of the TV camera, you're sort of like. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, I have to apologize for not being at the public hearing. I was incapacitated. I couldn't do it. So there were a couple of remarks I wanted to make, I wanted to give the board, the current board, some information that they may not be aware of as to the past. But a couple of things that I read in the paper today are totally incorrect. up until recently, the police chief had a say in who sat on the commission. It was only when it was presented to the current board and supervisor that it didn't make sense for the person that's going to be overseen to choose the person who was going to oversee him, that it became a matter of just the town board without the chief being involved, which is, again, I was part of that, and I think that's the way you do it. That's number one. Number two, the disagreement back, I think it was 2011, was not between the town board and the commission. It was between the chief, who refused to let the commission look at records that would be necessary to do its job, because he said that was not within our authority. It had nothing to do with the town board, and I'm aware of it, and I was sitting there at the time. We just needed a clarification, because how do you, as part of our directive, is the hiring and firing, because basically that's just one small piece, that's the piece that we do, is to review the hiring and firing. The reason for that being so that you don't wind up into you get a good candidate who's not connected to somebody, and you don't wind up into the situation that the town wound up with when the town board was controlling the commission in the hiring of an officer who cost the town over $100,000 because it was a matter of the town board just wanted her. That's what we do, but we can't do that. We sat down with the chief and we asked him about the qualifications of people, and what we got from the chief was, well, we know the people. Well, I can only speak for myself and a couple of the other commissioners that were at that meeting. Don't ask me to put my name onto something without looking at the documentation and seeing if this, in fact, is the best, or just is this a friend of yours or whatever. So what the chief was saying in this is not accurate. That's what the whole disagreement was. The chief doesn't report to two separate entities. He reports basically to the town board. He reports to the police commission as its oversight function. All the reports that we go through are examined, he's questioned, and this is all done in public. This is what our function is, so that it is not behind closed doors, so that the people know what's going on. I noticed in the paper something about 2011 that the police commission didn't want to go have any changes or whatever that was. That's not accurate, because Susan, when I was chair, which was 2012 or 2011, I believe, Susan and I sat down and started going over some proposed modifications to the law that would have clarified some of this, and gone forward. For whatever the reason, it didn't go through. Unlike the other chairs and the other commissions, when it was controlled by the town board, I told Susan and she understood, I can't make those kind of decisions, and Susan, myself, and the chief, I have to go back to the board. Because we are a board, we are all equal, nobody is better than anybody else, and you can't ask me to okay something like this without the board, at the point that I was the chair of, reviewing it and deciding, what they think about it and getting their input. That's the difference between when the town board ran the commission and the current commission. We don't spend any money. We have very little money. We go by what the town board gives us, or gives the police, and that's what we work on to make sure that the chief stays within that budget. We don't do anything else. The town board signs off on every single expense. So when I hear that this is all this money and the town board has no control over it, that's not accurate. The only argument we ever got into, or I ever got into with the town board about money, was in the federal funds that the town board is not allowed to expend. Under federal law, those funds must go to the police department for specific expenses for the police department only. And, you know, I've gotten into that discussion many times when we have come to the board to request the use of that money. And for whatever the reason, you know, there was always a hassle. But that's, you know, that's now, you look at me very strange.
I'm looking at you strangely because at least since I've been here, whenever there's been money for the seizure account, I'm very well aware, and I think my board's been very well, seizure money has to be spent for the police, and it has to be spent under very strict controls, and so therefore, it's just the way you're phrasing it in a sense that you've had problems with the boards with the seizure money. I don't think we've had problems with,
Let me clarify.
please. That's why I'm looking.
Since you've been, you know, look, Susan, before you got here, when the board was running the police commission, I'm going to give a little history if I can. I couldn't get, as a police commissioner, from the supervisor, information that I needed to do the job properly, the then supervisor. Information has been free-flowing, and there's always, you know, there's been an exchange between things that are going back and forth now, it always has been. The problem is that we have defined obligation by law. The town board made that law. They put it in there for whatever the reason.
What's defined by, what law did the town put in?
The 34, local law 34, that defines what the commission can, can't do, what its responsibilities are, blah, blah, blah.
Yes and no. I mean, it's state law, but, you know, you can make some changes like 5 people instead of 3. And
The one major point that I want to address, and then I'll go over the history, we are more responsible to the public than the town board is in what we do. The town board is the town board until the next election. And nobody can do anything. There's no way anybody can say anything, do anything. It does what it wants. At any given time, when the town board, if the town board didn't like what the commission was doing, they just say, goodbye, Mr. So-and-so, get out of here. When the town board was controlling the commission, they did that to one of the commissioners. They didn't like what she did. The union complained, and they asked her to step down as chair. I felt that that was something that wasn't right because I think she was set up, but I was not part of it. I was just watching from the outside, and I defended her. So we are more accountable to the people because we're not sitting here for 4 years telling you, you know, I'm here. There's nothing you can do. Well, you know, I don't like the idea that we're told, well, you're not accountable, we have to do it. It's not right. Now, let me give you a little history about the police commission when it was controlled by the then, very clear, town board. And this is for the 3 people, well, the 4th one isn't here, who weren't involved on the town board when it was controlling the commission. Everything that the commission did was at the direction of, and prior to, I'm going to go back and clarify, this is prior to 2.5 years ago, okay? Because up until that point, as a, you know, even though I was on the commission, the way the commission was structured with the chair, the commissioners, the other commissioners never knew what was going on. It was always a conversation between the chair, the chief, and the supervisor. The commission was never told what went on. That changed. Unfortunately, things changed. It got for the better. Prior to that, when the town board was controlling the commission, people don't remember, there was no procedure, which is the important thing, and that's really, as I told the town board that I'm concerned about, there was no procedure for a civilian to make a complaint. If you had a complaint against the police department, the procedure was, and I went before the town board many, many times, you went to the police department, you spoke to the sergeant. If you didn't like what the sergeant said to you, maybe you could get an appointment with the lieutenant to go over it. That was changed. That was changed when we started being independent, or the commission started being independent. Now there's a 3-step procedure for both officers and civilians. Civilian, you know, I insist that before the board gets involved in anything, it's in writing. I don't like people that come to a town board member and say, hey, so-and-so, and then they came to the commission and said, do this, that, and the other thing. You fill out the form. The form, I've always insisted, goes to the police commission, and we give it to the police chief. But the chief has to report to the commission what the status of that complaint is. If it's been resolved, and we have asked the chief, what's it resolving? Do you have a confirmation from the complaining party? This was done, do you have the tape, do you have whatever we were involved in? That was the next step, okay? Then the commission was involved, it either backed the decision, or in a number of cases, that was done in executive session, we told the chief, no, this is not acceptable. Go back and straighten this out, because there were a number of cases like that, all right? The third step was if you didn't like what the commission said, a civilian had the right to come to the town board to discuss the complaint. That's protection that was never afforded to the town residents when the commission was, overseen by the town board and done. There's even a provision for the union members, because the union members, by contract, must go to the police chief. If they don't like his decision, they can petition the board, which they have done in the past. And if they don't like the board, they go to their union. At which point, despite what's being said, we have no control after that point, because as the old board knew, and I think Susan may have been involved in the case, when it reaches the point where the union says, to heck with you, commission, we don't care, the commission then must come to the board to get permission to go any further than where we are and the recommendation. So to say that we have control, no, we have control, the commission had control only up to a certain point. After that, it went to the commission. The commission never spent a dime that the town board didn't authorize. It never did anything that wasn't authorized by the town board over and above where we were allowed to go. And as I said, I don't, and I've spoken to a number of times, you can get rid of the commission, that's your prerogative. You want to take it over, you want to do whatever you want, that's okay. In terms of me, okay, I'm only speaking for me. My only concern, and I have said this many, many times about the town board being the commission, you can be the commission, but you need oversight on your police department. You need someplace independent that has authority to help a citizen that has a problem and not be told, as the old commission when it was being overseen by the thing, and I sat at many of those meetings and listened to the commissioners, the then commissioners, say, well, if he doesn't like our decision, let him sue us. That's not an answer you give to a taxpayer. That's not an answer you give to somebody who comes to you because they have a problem. When Jeff said he got complaints about the commission, okay, fine, we never knew anything about it, but I expect complaints from the commission because there were a lot of people that came to the commission that they complained, and we looked at the facts, we did the research and whatever, and found out they were wrong, that their complaints were not justified. Now, I'm sure those people are not happy and, make complaints. That's fine, that's what we're there for.
I never said, by the way, I want to correct you, I've never said that I've gotten complaints about the commission. That was not written in the paper, I've not.
And I didn't say it was written in the paper.
You just said I've said that, I've never said that.
I know I said you said it, Jeff.
I've never said it.
Okay, well,
Okay, well, I want to clarify for the record that I have never
and I want
said
to clarify something also, but I'll answer it in a second. But I mean, in some ways, Ira, you are taking a lot of time. I'm letting you have the time out of respect for all the time you spent on the time you've spent on the police commission. And I think you, as being probably one of the best commissioners we've ever had, I'm giving you the time. But we do have to sort of.
Okay, no, I just wanted to let the other members who weren't part of the town board, when they were telling the commission through the chair, Tony wanted to appoint the chair, which is illegal. If you look at the law, the chair can only be appointed by the thing or whatever. The same thing with the terms. Remember, somebody asked me how come the terms are so screwed up? Well, again, because the town board decided they didn't care. They were going to make the terms this, that, and the other thing, whatever they wanted to do. I just wanted the other members to know that in my opinion, and I'm only going to speak for the last 2 years, because when I was on the commission, I was part of that group that was never informed of anything that was going on. That was only strictly the chair, the police chief, and the supervisor. But for the last 2 years, I think we've been doing a hell of a job in turning around. I mean, you know, we never hired somebody, you know, that we didn't think was qualified. And that's the whole point. We're not doing anything that is harmful, you know, as the way it reads in this.
Well, okay. Okay, thanks. Well, Ira, I didn't read the paper, so I can't respond. What I can say, though, is 2 years ago, when you were the chair, you did keep your commissioners informed, which nobody else did on the commission in the past, and somebody in the future might not. You also kept the supervisor informed, and who was able to then inform the town board, but no other chair did the same kind of good job that you did. So we will have a discussion later about the commission, but just because you were the perfect commissioner, and occasionally you might have a perfect board, but a commission could be good, or a commission could be bad, a board could be good, a board could be bad, so we'll have a discussion later about it. But when you were chair, you kept your board informed, you kept me informed, you did a terrific job, and so anything we do and anything we talk about relative to the police commission, because I know you take it very personally, because you've spent a lot of time on it, and you used to come all the time and complain about the commission, and you said the commission was a problem until you got on the commission. You fixed the commission, but one day when you leave, okay, the commission can go back to being a problem again. And so therefore, I just want to make sure, and I want to say it publicly, you did an amazing job. You were the best thing that happened to the police commission. You were the best, one of the best chairs that we ever had. So anything that we're doing and talking about is nothing personal to you, and that needed to be said.
Thank
Okay?
you. As I said, my only concern...
Yes, I know, and thank you, thank you. And if we make a civilian board, you'll be very, very happy. Okay? Okay, so let the record know, so let the record know that if we create a civilian...
Good news for
So
you.
if we dissolve the commission and create a civilian review board, Ira Margolis will be happy. So now let's move forward. Okay, so does anybody else want to speak during public comment? Okay, with that, now we'll get to the meeting. Okay, we'll get into the...
Anyone have any announcements?
Oh, I'm sorry, is there announcements?
I have an announcement, actually.
You look so happy.
It's very quick. I accepted a job this week that is government related, so it's not a conflict by any means, but I do think it's just important to be open and just mention that. So I'm a community liaison for Assemblyman Kevin Cahill. So I just deal with constituent concerns. It's not legislative based, and I just thought it was important to mention that, just say that out in the open.
So as part of public comment, you cannot bring them to Dan Torres when he's doing town business, please.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Dan. That
Thanks.
is
I just thought it was important
congratulations.
to, you know.
But congratulations,
Okay,
that
thank you.
is great.
Susan,
Yes?
I'm sorry, one thing I must say in regards to Jeff and the comments I've seen about him. What Jeff did, I found out, because the commission used to do that. They used to, you know, talk to each other. That's perfectly legal. And I saw in the paper, I meant to say that what you, they say what you did was illegal, and it's not. I checked with open meetings because that was some of the problems that I had. And apparently, it's perfectly legal. You can talk one-on-one to another. In the paper, Jeff, it was saying that you did this illegal stuff, and, you know, credit where credit is due. And I have to
Oh, you mean the fact that a town board member could talk to another town board member, and two town board members could talk, and that's illegal, which it's not. Thank you very much, because it
I'm glad
is.
we could talk.
Because Jeff and I, every time he's walked into town hall, we've been really concerned that actually by him walking into town hall to talk to me, that we've been doing something illegal. Same thing for Kevin. I refuse to meet with any town board members, because if I talk to them, it's illegal.
That was one of the other things I saw in the paper.
Yeah.
Or somebody wrote it or whatever, and it's not right, and you don't put misstatements in.
Thank you.
From the correct-
Well, just like for the fact that we had a legal meeting outside of Village Hall, which has been stated that we had a legal meeting. We were all at Village Hall for a meeting. We walked out. We were sitting outside on the couch. Jeff was just telling us a story. Somebody happened to walk out. We were all sitting there, and that was called an illegal meeting. We were doing no town business. Jeff was telling us a story, but somehow now we have had this infamous illegal meeting.
I didn't know about
Oh, yes. So, I mean, I guess when... So, yes, the 5 town board members can meet, we can talk, as long as we're not making any... As long as we're not making a decision about town business, we can talk, right? We can go to a party together and drink, and as long as we're not making a decision on town business, right?
Decision by the fellow who's in charge of open meetings.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, the only announcement I have is to remind everyone, Tuesday, January 28th, 7 p.m., be out at the high school. If you have any interest in the potential of a pilot, it's the Ulster County IDA will be holding a public hearing, encouraging all to please speak at the public hearing of any concerns you may have about the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes that is being applied for with the Ulster County IDA.
Okay, so, 28th,
I apologize. Did I say
28th.
27th? I apologize. It's the 28th, which is a Tuesday at 7 PM. I apologize if I said 27th.
Okay, so with that, before we get into Park Point, let's just very quickly, George did hear back from the Ulster County Planning Board in regards to electrical vehicle charging stations and the town law that we're trying to, the code that we're trying to adopt. I guess it's a code or a law or a...
It's an amendment to the site plan regulation.
Okay, it's an amendment to the site plan regulations in terms of electrical vehicle charging stations. And so I just want George to tell us very quickly what they said, and then we could just schedule the public hearing continuation.
What they said was they commend us for adopting the local law. They did raise a concern regarding the number of parking spaces that would be the threshold for installing electrical charging stations in a parking area. It currently reads 10 contiguous spaces, which I believe would typically be a 20-space parking lot, which is the threshold that you use for installing parking buffers around, landscaping buffers around parking areas, 20 spaces or more. That number could be increased, I think so. So I could make it 40?
What's our engineer think?
Take the microphone before you tell us what you think.
I mean, 20 is the logical number to me, just because the way we break it up with landscaping.
So in other words, what we're saying is, what do we put in, what do we put into our law? Or to our, we put in 10.
It says 10 contiguous spaces, you have to consider installing an electrical vehicle charging station and the necessary apparatus. The planning board can waive that if cause is shown. So if you believe the number of spaces would be unreasonable or the cost is too high, you can make your case to the planning board and they can waive it.
Okay, so the Ulster County Planning Board said it should be 20?
They didn't name a number, they just said 10 seems rather low.
Okay,
Perhaps you
and
should
so now,
increase
so
10's on each side of the aisle, and that's what makes it the 20 spaces. It would be a 20-space parking lot before,
is that what's in, the way our thing is written right now?
right?
Okay, so you're saying that we don't necessarily, that we're okay?
Is it 10, I'm confused too now.
I disagree.
Can you give her
10 contiguous spaces is 10 contiguous spaces.
Stacy, you say?
Oh, 10 contiguous spaces is 10 contiguous spaces.
Careful, this is an interpretation.
Yes.
If you're doing 10 on one side.
Not a definition.
And 10 on the other, that would be 20, okay? If you're a small office building, like, say, 231 Main Street, that has 10 contiguous parking spaces all in a row up against a property line, there's no other 10 to make 20.
If that was the case, I would do 9.
Code requires that I have 10.
Put your landscaping buffer in between.
You see where I'm going with that, Dave?
I see where you're
Just because
going.
you've got 10 across doesn't mean you've got 10 behind it.
It's a double-loaded parking lot that I was thinking of, and I see
Right.
your point.
My point is 10 is 10.
We could clarify it to say it's got to be consistent. We'll use the same requirement as for landscaping. 20 spaces.
So we're saying 20 spaces or
Give.
There's not a requirement
Correct.
that you install
Correct.
a charging station.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have to amend anything, or we're just going to continue the public hearing on what we already opened the hearing on?
I believe you have not had comments, so I think we could
Open the
close the
hearing.
hearing, open to close, and
Okay, so what,
Be revised.
so
Move to open the public hearing?
No, we can't do that, we can't do it tonight because we didn't notice it. We have to set it, we have to set it.
Just set
No,
public hearing.
I thought we opened it.
No, what we did was we opened it and we chose not to close it because we were waiting for the feedback. He got the feedback, but because we didn't set the continuation, I think we have to,
Continuation to tonight, okay.
we didn't set the continuation to tonight.
Because we didn't know where the comments
We didn't know when we were going to get the comments back. So George had said to put it on the agenda. Carol and I checked to see if it was in the minutes that we had set it for tonight. We saw that we never said it, we just continued it. So we need to set it tonight to continue. We can continue it to the 13th, to the 20th, to our next town board meeting, which is on the 20th, and we can just do it at 7:15.
So moved.
So you want to move to, okay, Kevin moved that the continuation of the public hearing on the electric vehicle charging stations amendment to site plan will continue on the 7:15, at 7:15 on the 20th.
Second. Dan seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. February 20th, 7:15, a continuation of our public hearing on changing site plan changes to allow for electric vehicle charging stations, which I think are we the first one in Ulster County?
The moment.
At the moment. At the moment, we might be the first one in the first municipality to have charging stations in their code. Okay, so now we're going to go over to Park Point. I don't know where Paul is. He's missing the fun. Does everybody have a copy of the resolution? So, you don't have to. Thank you very much, Stacy, for always being so wonderful.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
If you want to
Here you
stay for
go.
the rest of the meeting, you can.
Here you go. Here you go. Why don't you give this to Michael? Give this to Michael. Do you have one? Okay, so, the town board has discussed Park Point many a time, many a meeting. We've sent letters to the IDA. We have sent letters to the foundation. We made a public statement at the planning board that got included in their public hearing. We went up to the IDA, and I made a statement on behalf of the board at the IDA. However, the school district did a resolution. Gardner did a resolution. The Supervisor Association, where we meet every month at the diner at 8:30, this last meeting on Tuesday, the IDA for Park Point for Newports was on the agenda. All of the supervisors passed a resolution supporting the community of Newport's request not to have a pilot granted based on home rule, and so that was passed unanimously, and that's being drafted right now. The Supervisor Association also is supporting, asking the county, which is going to happen hopefully on January 30th, for the county to also support the town and the school district, and the county is the third taxing jurisdiction, also to say we do not want a pilot, and, to deny a pilot. So we've done an awful lot of work and whatever, but we have been asked to actually put our opposition into a resolution format. So therefore, there's a resolution from the school district. There hopefully will be a resolution from the county. There was a resolution from the town of Gardner, and then the town will have an actual resolution. So it just continues, all of the taxing jurisdictions standing together. And so what we did is the county resolution and the Gardner resolution are pretty much the same, and so I modeled our resolution after those other two resolutions, and so I could read it if you guys would like me to read it for the viewing public, or if you guys are just willing to make a motion to move it and second it.
I mean, you can even throw it online, which I think would be a nice...
Well, it is online, it's already online.
So then I think that opportunity is there.
Okay, so as soon as it was written, it got online, we put everything online.
So
Okay,
moved then?
Okay,
to
so,
accept the resolution?
so Dan is moving a resolution opposing the granting of a pilot by the UCIDA for the Wilmore Park Point application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. So now,
It's not in the health, welfare, it's not in the interest of the health, safety, and welfare of community members to have this. Is that what we're saying? Or we reference home rule?
no, what we reference in home rule is that a county organization shouldn't have the right to supersede the will of the taxing jurisdictions on a local level.
The will of the people in the jurisdiction.
Well, it's not the will of, well, we're hopefully representing the will of the people, but we're,
It's on the people.
well, yes, the impact's on the people.
And our jurisdiction is to protect
That.
constituents.
Well, our jurisdiction is to protect our constituents. Hopefully, we're doing that. But ultimately, what we're trying to say to the IDA is that, where's the statement where it says, I thought there was something there that said the IDA doesn't have to even listen to us. Oh, okay, yeah. Whereas the UCIDA has affirmed in the official minutes of February 13th, we are not dictated by the town, county, or school board. We will make an independent decision on this application ourselves. And we're basically saying, as the taxing jurisdictions, they should not be operating independently of what the taxing jurisdictions who represent the community feel and say.
Well, aren't we really saying,
Can you?
that because we have authority under home rule to take care of the general health, safety, and welfare of our population and our community, that some other governmental entity can't put their interests ahead of the people in our community, that we're, which home rule is designed
Right.
to protect?
Yes.
And that's what we're doing, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And not to forget our friends in the SOPAS, but I believe they're also going to look at doing a resolution, am I correct?
Actually, I think you're right. I think they actually ended up, well, no,
I think they discussed bringing it up at their next meeting. is my-
at the town board. I think what ended up happening, I actually can't remember. I think the sequence was, they weren't going to, it was brought up, they weren't going to vote on it because one member of the board felt it was just dropped at the last minute and he didn't want to act on it. But I think by the end of the meeting, I think they ended up voting for it.
did? Okay.
I think by the end of the meeting, I think ASOPA's voted for it. So we should actually double check that. So you're right, I think they might have done that too. Now, interestingly enough, just as a very interesting point of interest, when I first came into, when you and Kevin and Gina and I came back, when I started working on this project, there was the chair of the IDA at the time. He's no longer the chair. George and I made a phone call to him to talk specifically about this project, and George and I were told on the phone that the IDA would take the consideration of the taxing jurisdictions into account, and they would weigh it very, very heavily, and they would try not to basically go against the taxing jurisdictions. We were told that on the phone after a very long talk. This was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago at this point. Unfortunately, that chair of the IDA stepped down. He is no longer on there, and it seems like this existing IDA seems to be going on record saying they are not necessarily swayed by the influence of the local jurisdictions, so therefore, all the jurisdictions are taking the action that is necessary to try to apply the public pressure to them to sort of say, maybe you really do need to pay attention.
And our challenge may be based on home rule.
Our challenge might be based on home rule. And actually, since our legislator walked in just at exactly the right time, I will ask, from what I understand, the Economic Development Committee was supposed to meet the other night. They ended up not meeting, so they will be meeting on Monday night, where they will be taking up the resolution on opposition to the pilot on Park Point. On Monday night, right? Hector Rodriguez, legislator, who walked in exactly at the right time. We couldn't have planned it better. I said to Hector when I called, actually, we did talk today for the first time in a long time, and I said to him exactly at 10 to 9, please walk in.
Sure.
Anyway, so I understand the meeting got canceled.
The meeting was canceled, yes.
But it's rescheduled for Monday.
Yes.
And the expectation is it will go through committee on Monday. Hopefully, it will pass on Monday, and it will come to the floor on January 30th.
If I was a betting man, I would probably say it will move to the floor on Monday. It will then be on the January 30th.
Meeting,
Yes,
okay, to be voted on.
yes.
Which, anybody who would like to join me if I don't have a meeting that night, or did I just schedule, is that?
Yeah, I think we're good.
The 30th, I believe, is a Thursday.
That's a Thursday.
Oh, okay, no, it's fine, I just scheduled something for Monday. So anybody who wants to join me next Thursday as I go address my former fellow legislators, asking them to please pass the resolution, please feel free to join me.
However, if I may make a suggestion.
Yeah, we can all go.
As you know, we served together for years. And I would try to recommend, while we always appreciate public comment in the Essex County Legislature, I've always found that, having your strongest speakers and maybe having a handful of your strongest speakers and having others there in support is probably the best way to go.
What Hector's trying to say is that if 40 people show up, the legislature doesn't like listening to 40 people say the same thing over and over and over again, okay? So what Hector is saying is that 1 or 2 or 3 of us basically get up, if there should be a lot of people, to basically say to the legislature, this is how we feel, and everybody standing here together is supporting what we're saying, and we move on. And basically that will happen, and my purpose is going to remind the legislature that when Saugerties did not want casinos, and the legislators came and asked us from a home rule perspective to support them, we supported them from home rule perspective, and
And I mean, if I may, I'm guessing, okay, thank you.
you might want to take the microphone. And then just make sure you say something that we're happy with.
And if I don't?
Then we'll never invite you back. I won't call you and text you and say, Hector, show up. Go ahead.
Where was I going with? Oh, wait, I mean, in terms of past precedent, different legislatures, different IDAs take sort of different tones and different styles. The last time that we had a Democratic majority, we always honored the concept of that the IDA and that the legislature would honor pilot agreements that had previously been negotiated with the locality, and that we would never take an end run around a locality, meaning pass or induce an IDA bond that had not previously had support of the municipality in which it was located in. I mean, that's what happened with Woodland Pond, for example, in which we had a negotiated settlement that the village and the town had signed off on. You might disagree with what they came up with, but it was at least signed off that and had been negotiated by the school district, by the village, and by the town. So, that was our past precedent, and I think that's the direction that we would like to go in, I think, again. And, I think it's really incumbent upon anybody who cares about the subject to, number one, show up at the public hearing that the IDA is holding. And that's actually one thing I would probably say everyone who wishes to speak on the subject should come out for that. If that's the instance,
Right.
I'd probably argue everyone who has comment should show up and actually should give comment, there at that time. In addition, I believe we are soliciting and looking for IDA board members. I'm sorry, is this something else I should be
Well,
aware of?
let's be careful too, though, but go ahead, keep
No, he's
going.
just giving you the date and time of it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't, okay, sorry. Something appeared before me. So, but, so that is one thing that we are still actively also looking for is, with the changeover, there's reappointments and
Well, that's what I was
appointments that
going
are
to
made
just ask you
as
really
well,
quickly,
so.
even though it's not on the agenda, but since Hector's here, can you just explain, all the appointments are up? Do you, or is it certain people that are up?
Wait, for the
IDA?
For the industrial development, the Industrial Development Agency is actually a yearly appointment, and it's actually technically, from what I was told, it's technically at will, but we actually do set a yearly appointment, and those appointments are actually set forth in state statute to actually end on November 30th. But again, there's sort of this past precedent where the previous legislature doesn't appoint new members when there's a new
Sitting body.
when there's a new sitting body, and even actually if there's actually a changeover in the composition from one party to the other party. There's sort of an unspoken sort of gentleman's agreement on that. So, and apparently there's laughing in the audience at this subject, so that's fine. But
They're not even paying
it's-
attention to you. Go ahead.
That's okay too. So, it's really more a matter in which, it is still somewhat of a interesting question and situation where we actually have a sitting IDA board basically, conducting this public hearing. So nothing is really set in stone, and so anybody who cares about this issue should still be paying a lot of attention and really putting as much pressure as possible, because I'm not going to sit here and say that, we're going to have a new IDA. We don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's not until the legislature actually takes a vote on who's going to be appointed to that body. But it's actually one of the few public benefit corporations that gets created by the legislature, the other being the RRA. So.
Two great organizations.
Do you
Thank
do
you.
you do anything else?
No, no.
Do you want me to
that's it.
explain where industrial
No.
revenue bonds come from?
No, I don't. I absolutely don't. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so we voted on this,
We
right?
voted, this is approved.
Okay, so this is voted, this is approved, we now have this resolution. I need to ask, we do have to have a conversation with you on legal advice relative to the public hearing? Is that true?
My understanding.
Okay, so while I hate to once again do this, like I said, I don't like to make people wait in the audience and have the TV audience sit and look at all of you sitting here. We like to do this stuff at the very end, but because of the cost of the attorney and the consultant, what we're going to do is, we don't have to make a motion to go into executive session. We have client-attorney privilege to discuss Park Point and get some legal advice, so we are going to take a little bit of a break,
Can we
hopefully.
put a time, what would
I was
your,
going to say, hopefully, maybe about 15 minutes, you think would be? 15 minutes should be okay. So, if you guys want to dance for the camera, do some interviews for the public, whatever, we're going to take a little bit of break. Thank you.
thank you. 15 minutes.
15 minutes, come on. Dave, you want to come in with us?
No.
Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
By the way, I just issue a voice vote to this effect.
You know what, I realized that I
The
was
legislature just
completely
voted to
forgot.
accept the 1% community. We literally had to wait for the government to sign this. No. It was done. And then her legislation, and then had by certified mail, so we actually had to make sure it got there in time.
You set 'em straight?
We had a sheriff, deputy, drive something to make sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I didn't know.
By the way. Yeah, I just took a job. Kevin Cato's.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's awesome.
Oh, I'm good.
I'll tell you that. I think it's awesome. I don't know, maybe I'm good. I think it's awesome. Well, you only get to do that once.
Just for that?
We're good. I'm glad that got done now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Trust me, it was extraordinarily before you came here. I was in Kingston, and I...
What kind of location?
With the legislature, and then I went and got a bite to eat, and then I came here. What's up?
I'm just curious.
I totally actually just walked through like random on the street. There was no plan. Anything. Why?
I'm just curious. So,
Really?
yeah, really.
Okay. So what's going on? What's going on?
How much? Boy, are you guys gonna have a fun year.
Oh, I can grab an agenda.
Still trying to figure out whether
I
that,
mean, me to grab an agenda.
the whole thing that went down with Perry was the nuclear option in some way.
Well, for Leonardo.
That was bizarre.
I speak to people every day. Thank you.
I've been there for 11 years. God help me. I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot.
I've been doing this for 30 years and I've never seen anything like
Well,
that.
like that, yeah, no. Again, doesn't happen very often, but, you know.
That's,
As I said in my public comments on the floor during the course of that vote, I said it doesn't change the fact that we have an agenda that we're going to be pushing regardless of whoever's in leadership. And so if it's more difficult because we've got people in leadership that aren't as helpful, fine, but we're still going to be pushing our agenda.
how many sessions has John presided over now?
Technically, I think it is third.
How has the flow gone?
Is this for public consumption?
No, I have no recording, no pad. Nothing is ever off the record, but since I can't record it.
Right in my chair.
Not
What's happening with,
Where's the little dance you have?
They both.
That was for your boss.
I think there's a law that I can't. For approval.
You have the audio on? So then they might forget that they're on. You're telling me I would be surprised? You really think I should be surprised?
I was surprised.
So you went.
Because the microphone was right there, and then it's like sometimes it breaks, and like all of a sudden, one of them stops and look at me, then, oh, am I something?
You can't shoot it.
You know?
Yeah. Ooh, it's right in front of the camera. Damn it, Danny.
Is that thing still on, by the way?
Yeah, you want to do the air?
The sound is off. But the,
Go ahead.
You cut the benefits.
Yep.
I cut the
You're not on camera yet.
Sound like the issue,
When, can you remind me about the Ulster County? Because as much as I've like not been involved in the private clinic stuff, I do actually have opinions about the pilot aspect of it. I do. So I would like to voice them or join in the voicing of them, but I do not. Oh, it's like
They
this
come
time.
back and they tell us, screw you, we have to make sure that they really choose him. Come on, it's just,
No.
my assistant. They have a chance. And he was with us.
I don't know if that's a deal breaker or not.
We get investigated. And you think, you know, I used to say to them, I used to say to them, I said, let me ask you guys a question. Naval intelligence investigated us. Army intelligence investigated us. FBI, don't you guys talk to us? Let me have the defense so much money, you know. That's the thing I got.
Planner, and it says, this is not a planning question.
So I'm sure there was.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like, I look at these people,
I don't know if we're right now, the sewer plants, because we overshoot, the water, I mean, the water will find.
you know, our stances,
There's water.
you may not like what it is, but people do.
Why are you making that face at me for?
Water for a project.
You can call him traitor and this, that, and the other. Don't care about it. He.
Oh, I'm sorry, are the wells there enough?
And it's government spying.
No. Listen, so.
When you listen to the NSA say, I told you, that's how he phrased it. I didn't, you know, I told you the least lie possible. No, because nobody's
Is that on site?
What are these people doing?
What are we running right now?
It's like a lot of my,
What is Jesus?
a lot of people,
That's what's the story?
people that were getting cancer treatment can't get it anymore. The biggest cancer clinics in the country.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, that's why.
Patients. They're also refusing, starting to refuse Medicare payments because the payments aren't there.
Property farther upstream.
And the death panel, if you look at the death panel and research it, it's only for senior citizens.
You bet, sir.
You know, people say, oh, no such thing as a death penalty. Actually, it does. It exists, and it's for seniors only. Their job is to stop Medicare from paying doctors that they don't think will be. And do you really think that they're not going to increase that?
We have two things I'm saying. One is
Obamacare.
our South
He says, if you're old,
has been 2 years.
if you can't contribute to society, you don't deserve to live.
Still yet, still yet,
He's
still
the
yet,
guy who
you see comments.
It's,
Tim Rose has emphasized.
and he say, when he asked the question, how am I,
You know our man.
70 years old, I heard Bob Ashard, she needs to be hard, take a pill.
Tim Rose took umbrage at
How?
during the course of the mediation, I say,
Is,
I had to go do this with Tim. Don't be, I'm a
She'll take a pill.
friend, right? It's just like, yeah.
No, it's not so much for me, really. You know, it's like what we're saying here. This is somebody
If you're tier one, your base,
don't hurt people.
let's say that you're at 80, okay, I'm sorry, so you're at 80.
Biggest
Then you
function
said
we
80,000.
did, what we're saying on the letters somehow there. It took me 6 years to get this commission turned through the record. Really, nobody has checked. Because it was
Well,
always
if all the institutional members need in one shot, then that's ideally 21 to stagger out. You know?
You don't appreciate the issue.
Yeah.
Everything he said was not true. They
used to write the letters, they have technical, send it out to technical.
Who is more responsible than the point is? Because we're all three of us. She said, Jeff, get rid of it. And we go through it. We're stuck with Jeff for 4 years, whether you like it or not.
It's really
No,
not the new policy.
actually, the landlords overall, the ones that I was dealing with, were actually
And it's all
upset about the
They went right back into the old, once it scabs over, it's a little bit less painful.
But this is a different thing.
Dealing with people that handle numbers.
You come down here, that's what they need.
I mean, some property tax issue, which is what they claim is part of the problem, is the high property tax, you then have to
Outside.
charge more for rent. I don't know
Oh, I said,
exactly how, I haven't punched the numbers on that, so I don't know how that would play in. Mine's, it's a little bit apartment, I have a four-room.
The city.
And I like where I live, like, putting that
Facility.
but it's not, and everything is
$250.
yeah, so.
3 years to get that changed. It took me 2 years to get it done.
You know,
Although I was working at that time.
I said, the only place I could never get the,
No, there's a bar in there, but there's no one. Yeah. Well, there's a bar in there, there's just not any beer or anything. It's the lights.
because they were afraid that and then we would know what that was.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I don't know. So I think they wanted to, they didn't want it to be like a bar.
Really
Like more like a wine bar kind of thing, like some wine, like maybe some like 4 or 5 like fancy microbrews.
This is where
Like $5, $6 beers. No, but like.
when a few commissioners that,
Yeah, it's kind of like talking to people from like that's why I don't know how well it'll
Really talented.
go. And I feel like with the cafe culture has been part of that place forever, like you're not gonna get rid of. I don't know if people just want to sit there and like drink their long fancy beer with like a bunch of like college students on the couch. Well, yeah, that's the thing, but we're not doing it.
police commissioner,
So,
for some reason,
I don't know. I don't know if it's separate list, because we choose not to use
only when
that.
Jeff got pissed off, I remember who he got pissed off.
Yeah, I also,
And he said,
there's one you can get like
the,
these,
you know, you gotta be careful about the
like more like state of emergency. But like, the thing is, like, that's not gonna go out when they have food. Because like, nobody's gonna wanna sit at a wine bar where you can't like, drink
I'm assuming they'll try to find it. You know, you should go back and you put it
You
in
know,
the
nobody's gonna wanna sit there and drink their fancy wine for a month. Like,
like, you know, all sorts of
Yeah.
bizarre little things. You try to place a good training, but even that.
they
I can't,
are done. Yeah, they
whenever I
moved
use
the tech
my
part of it.
opinion, I don't have to.
And the program.
They kind of split that up between like tech repair and stuff, and then web
That's their
development.
main line.
So they're kind of operating in two places,
Places,
that kind of stuff, and then Casey just kind of stopped.
Well, yeah, or what do you do? You're go crushing, you're dispensing meds, you're basically using probably an electronic form of
Or they, $100,000.
medical practice.
He was actually in town today. Yeah, everyone's all popping back to like day.
It was theoretically being given all the information when
Yeah.
But,
Well,
you know,
that was
if you're a New
here.
Yorkian, for Christ's sakes, we had one girl straight up, she was straight out, I don't even know how much she made from HR, these things that happened. And we were for stuff off her, she was being shadowed by someone, just to make sure, don't think, just to make sure she was doing, you know, leaving in, still reoriented for a month, and still actually have somebody sort of holding your hand, I think that is expected a lot. You're paid them, you know, 21, 22, an hour, and, you know,
But I feel like there hasn't been time to
give to Sue Olsen or something like that, yeah, or even go to
and you can say whether the drugs they come with.
it's actually, the level of
I turned it on.
No, it's like.
those were some ambitious, you know, but not best at school or whatever, because it's the way to CNAs, it's like the same deal.
I
have those folks who are, because I had my friend David for
Seems to be okay.
The unseen things that human beings sort of produce and that sort of thing, right? You know, it's,
Good.
I do not envy the job. I'm not there for $8.
Yeah.
So, it's about making sure that no one department sort of falls by the wayside. So I want to keep that good residents, they hate, right? I'm actually quite ready for it. I listen around and just watch. So long as I got enough DVDs, sometimes I got like enough DVDs, I can just sit back and just be like, screw it, go watch TV. To hell with all of you. I wouldn't
Yeah.
You got my briefs. I made it. See, I'm ready already. I'm ready now.
Signing in my last time.
I thought about it, trust me. I've already jokingly said to the administrator, I'm like, oh, there's a room with one has two for me, right? Oh, yeah, no, there is. Of course, I won't be there for like another, 50 years, but still, whatever.
But if you look at the report,
Mr. Marks.
Say hi to the sound guy.
Yeah, the sound guy.
Yeah, it was cold. Gotta be a new code. Water shuttle. 10 inch above ground extension.
anytime they do something, they always find a reason why it's okay. And you will never find a officer who has killed somebody and should be charged.
Actually, I want I went to New York last week. That's why we have a list of things that they want us to maybe tomorrow.
You guys can kill
One of our things is the rail trail.
Where's the example of what the town is doing? We have food, we bathe the town.
I didn't check my whole analysis. Are you? They asked me if anyone had any kind of data, real time, real cost.
Have you seen a record?
About the dispatch.
Yeah, but I still don't like to compete all the time.
Without dispatches.
My memory is like 20 million to
And let's see how
She's the fact that she's like the only like awesome
You probably have perspective on that. I were the rail trail.
Just because you're a public.
They wouldn't mind.
No, it's not. Our party's not the village.
they do something, you don't know about it until it's done.
Oh, no. That,
It's not bad.
Is that big?
that was dealt before, I know her well.
Which she can do.
And I like,
Nothing would be.
but of all the landlords that I've done with, talked to, whatever, she
don't have any
was not kind of
You have someone to do,
funny, you know?
that may be the only incumbent someone to do.
And like you said, I'm always
Let's say the applicant,
They're asking everyone.
let's say whatever reason they're
I
coming
never
down
wanted
the
to
arc,
Most of it is,
they
a lot of the stuff they're doing is
can try to put you in one
Did you put back into the easement?
of, okay, you had a prejudice, you had a prejudice, you had a prejudice,
I was actually a part of it. I was on
clear opinion during the course of the process.
if you don't want it.
Commission's
And
That's
I
the opinion.
Yeah, they're eating.
think that
I think that's the only thing, that's the only thing that heard from
but I feel like it got shut down for two reasons. One, there's some people
Sit down.
against it. They weren't being reasonable and looking at what would come out of it.
Coming up, sit down.
Or even if you don't do it way, like, they were,
I thought you were at the Republican
they were against even the idea of
Now,
exploring. And then there were people who were so for it and for it.
I am aware, I have been to plenty of your roots are good.
Wanted to see her head without the proper.
Like, he gives me the record.
Proper.
I know. Now, like, I like unofficially the parliamentarian.
That's a Republican problem. You're not allowed, you're not allowed to support everything. After a candidate has been established, actually prior to a candidate saying
How they say it are suddenly vastly different.
I give it credit for your business.
When I started off, we didn't have a
They're
camera.
kind of like, screwed up everything. Middle, like, well, this is gonna be really great, but figure out this, figure out this.
To, expound his sort of campaign about it. Has he gotten the call?
I don't know.
You don't have the guts
I think because they're trying to first go with this or no, we're trying to get
If you want to have people believing
and that's
you have to stand up.
It's somebody else that was on that got back to me. It's like, wait, what? Like, years ago. It's like, oh,
the land transport.
it was something that was like 20 that I did.
So,
You know, when it's like conscience, kind of like,
I'm not sure.
Anything to say. I am waiting for the repercussions. Because I did New Year, which is keep it's a sense of solidarity and it's done. And if I can get them to agree civilian that's more right.
So, and especially in the beginning, and the process of rushing, and not stopping. So properly engage the public discussion about it, and that's.
We need that $2 million for Washington.
Oh, you know what, I have to get it to the water.
To get it right.
The committee is supposed to be doing.
Like I said, Tony was in the beginning information I needed.
12:30 is the meeting on Stop and Shop and the Cherry Hill thing.
and so basically, elimination theater there.
It's going to be a Stop and Shop store.
Well, that was the plan.
Private conversation at
12:30, like
that point, anytime the private
place right inside.
The vestibule where they eat or something. Yeah, I got an
email about the water valves, something in the back, an extra parking space, or the cooler is gonna be extended. Maybe that's where I got it. I went up and looked, I don't think it's a big deal, but I wouldn't mind hearing.
Why would you make them do
Can't hurt.
Kind of like.
Stop and shop is going to bring their engineers to make sure the driving data or I can't be there and representatives.
Like a whole anti-consolidation thing, and that's when he
Stop and
kind
shop
of deferred.
wants to
Like,
get
no, I'm not
the
asking
plans ready, so when the finance
saying,
open,
like, there's a lot of different
If I remember right, Verizon and stuff like that don't need that pole that's in the middle, right?
they don't need it.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think they even need the pole.
Well, actually,
I thought I read that they don't, others
I think the whole they moved, they found a way to move it, so it doesn't need to go.
yeah, it was something like, yeah.
So I don't think that was actually
Funny because Dunkin' Donuts wanted $5,000.
a lot of valid concerns.
And as soon as it doesn't look like there's going to be an easement, the contract to Stop and Shop. So they give you that easement for $5,000. Stop and Shop called me and said, hey, he's dealing with us, he's talking to us.
You have all the power until they get rid of the law. That law gave you the power.
It's amazing.
You have to put a commission in place.
Great, I'll be there.
Saying it's too much for whatever.
Take care.
Stay warm.
Anytime they wanted, all they had to do was say to any commissioner, you're off. That's more responsive than waiting 4 years for somebody to determine it. And they did that. Remember they did that, Diane?
I always crack up because, you know, I don't know what he was here, but in the old days, he was the biggest critic of the police commission. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But, you know, nobody was more. I used to think you'd find him in the ditch killing like this.
Yeah, I know.
I used to say that I was saying, this is going to kill me.
But I felt like they
Because of the way I felt about
Waiting around for the governor to go basically sign what God did was yellow stuff.
I spent 6
Bottles just waiting for them to do everything built and so messed up, so terrible. He said it basically, okay, she said two messages. New Year's Day walk that nobody likes, or she bad presses, and basically, no, and yet, that was the agility that it's for a place to go, say, oh wait, $20 million. So now we did opioid, or fighting without as precedent, I'm sorry, but we're in a stage right now where the way this county budget, the town's got to take care of, we basically just pull our own fund balance, basically, the town's on safety net and on sales tax.
I was writing these weeks. Yeah. I only go by.
But the problem is the county budget, because I can't even have her see this point, sales tax.
No, I made a couple comments about the
Sequestration, feds were minimal. Our sequestration would decimate this area. Road patrol, cut this, cut that. Yeah, basically, what if Kevin?
I know that was his place.
This was put the ball right back. We still have by basically passed, again, the New York State Tax and Finance, kind of just like, what the fuck did you do?
Well, and it seems that, I don't know, you know,
Probably the taxpayers.
slash and burns and dispatches. He didn't get his way with the slash and burn.
Yeah, there's a scandal. Hold on, where's Vitarius? Vitarius, where's Vitarius? Chris Marks is amazing. I'll send him a letter.
2 days later, at one of my upgraded part-time reasonable. Jeff's always had a problem.
That's a good thing.
And likewise, should not have been.
Yeah, my father defected from Flag Hill to
And it shouldn't be
Florida.
tied to the
Guess how much they
I
paid?
don't have the documentation. It's
California.
only a feeling. So,
Well,
140.
and right, Stuart
My father's a
was there.
disabled Vietnam vet.
I don't think you
They had
understand
these
things.
freaking exemptions for like disabled combat veteran, you know.
I'm not sure how
Prices
we
to get
came
one for
down,
Vietnam.
how many, the last time that was flying 2 years ago, last year.
And he says,
But I'm not sure.
Stop it.
Oh, yes,
Although admittedly, their school system sucks.
that's a
Like I remember,
I think it has
even
to
in
do, I think it has
Walker.
something to do with.
I don't know this show, no, it's a problem. Which is why you notice the kids, and you just really funny, so I remember in the we had these two girls who came in who were age-wise 6th graders, ended up in 5th grade because they were just a year behind.
How many times I get called?
Yeah, that was like, I was in school in Florida in college, and they all went to private school, like every single day of one of all was private school, so that's sort of the,
Yeah, well,
that's
unfortunately,
basically is if you're a good family, you go to a private school, which means that you go to a college, right? And then, you know, you get an education, you be successful, and the rest
I always tell her.
are fodder, you know, or whatever. Absolutely. And basically, yeah, no, exactly, no, it's true.
That's true.
Always like so you can rich kids people are fortunate.
Yeah, I understand.
But, for Christ's sakes, if you're gonna retire, trust me, I thought about it, I'm like, wait, I'm a tier 4, so it's like, wait, what's tier?
But she does it because she.
You know, so I can see that being.
You're not old enough. I'm not gonna hold you up, but I can take one look at it and go.
But anyway, that's a separate issue. As
In dealing with her as a boss the last 2 years, it's only confirmed, at least to me,
Because even when she was in legislature, she didn't make friends up there.
Oh, please, actually,
As Tony.
oh, so here's the thing, so did you ever work, even when you were younger, any kind of park job,
Like I said, the way she wrote things.
part-time work, or anything like that, for town, or
My view
for the county, or anything like that now? When did you start with the highway department?
my view of the commission up until.
You sure you're not a tier 2?
Look, I don't know, I just don't know why. the
Tier
board-
2s are like they're like a unicorn, right? You find a fucking tier 2, it's like amazing, man, because it's a very narrow band that exists. I know, well, no, tier 1. No, tier 2 is like big, because it's not anybody before like 1980.
No, because most of
whatever,
the stuff
that's tier 1, because back then,
it's not a topic that I have
after
great
state
interest in. So
towns and municipal employees were paid like nothing, okay? And it was just like, you know, they were paid nothing,
I have
so
other
the sort of reward for all of that was the state of North Carolina said, look, you're not getting 90% of your base salary. They didn't realize that people were basically living longer, and these people would basically get so much more in terms of their salary. So, they were like, oh, you need crap. Wait, you're getting, you know, they can't now pay $9,000 for the rest of their life.
It's like on that side of the building, and they came underneath, so they have to record it and then put it on. He probably documented his resolution there.
Yeah, I started
Unlike Auden,
working
passed
with
at the 90s ticket there, they, one of the Republicans, well, that business.
back then though, I had left the office and you had to
Even, now,
go ahead and take the buyout, my money had come in.
oh, wait. Okay, so you were paid out. But here, no,
I'm not even sure, I didn't ask. I think that
You can buy those back.
the supervisor's Republican.
Okay, so you bought that from my boy, all the way back.
And then I got up and I asked you about,
Yeah, no,
so we said something about that, right, so I gave you some.
like I got paid out, I got feds back in the late 90s, whatever, it's like, shit, yeah.
$22.1 million, getting a,
No, that shit was a state
they gave
agency.
me one of the.
Well,
You know, I
so,
tried to.
and there's other thoughts, like, wait, did she technically get
Deal with
like,
it.
97?
I'm running this meeting.
So, but, yeah, add up all these years, we have to, I don't know, it all
That's
adds
a
up.
school thing when I worked
It
at.
all adds up, I knew a guy who
You have
just
to,
worked at a parks job.
my speech was.
But as a
They
kid,
finally let me.
but you got paid, you got paid. I don't see you learn that. You're the system, once you're the system, you're at the tier level. And so some of it was a tier 1, even though he wasn't that old, but he was a tier 1. And it was just like,
And, you know, and it's one of the reasons, the Randall probably could have done even better if he had. Well, I told Tony that I ran into this 2 hours. I said to him, that he was lucky to have encouraged David John, because at least they helped him, I felt a lot wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And I talked about some of the things I heard about during the election, I said, I can't.
well, it all dates back to your part-time, it all adds up to the years. And then, you know, to make it worse, Carl Coleman didn't seem to lose the positions
I had heard that.
10 years, he just stopped paying it.
He wasn't
Wild and actually,
Well, you know,
it's the whole thing.
you know,
And then the way deals and tools that once a benefit is given,
and they follow up the plan.
be negotiated out, but it can't be taken away. So once Carl said, oh, 10 years you go pay it, we made
It might have got hard if you had no option.
So,
It's, I can't deal with these kind of people.
You're not paying, you've been here for over 3 years, you're not paying into your state retirement.
I tell Ford about my 2 hours.
It's not like that, your salary.
We hung out 2 hours.
You're vested, you invested back in.
With him and another person.
28 cents. Oh, wait, 04, right? And no, they have to get your.
I have it every day, you know, I'm home, I drink wine. I went out to the office to get a bite to eat, and I hadn't eaten all day. And then Susan came home, she was eating. And she came in and she said hi to me. You were friendly enough. And then I sat down. And I said, can we just talk like 3 citizens in the
No, but it doesn't matter. Before that, and then when you were part-time, no, were you considered half-time or were you considered less than half-time? Right?
They both had their phones out.
It might be something before it depends on how many, because what they do is they just do it cumulative on years. So for example, let's just say, when I was on the planning board planning, I got $3,000. I got 0.05 years. The retirement slip for that.
He put the phone like this in front of us.
That's nothing. So guess what? That's another, you know, whatever, you know, especially that I need to do calls. I got to I was on the planning board for a year, for Christ's sake. Tony. As a matter of fact, Lithgow was our attorney. Still our attorney.
He jumped out of his chair and fell backwards. And he was pissed about it. When I stood in the committee room, I was a debate of the trial. I could feel his criminal.
He was so mad. He makes this whole statement of, well, where's the end of the review?
And I was just like,
I think that we should, test the soils for arsenic, for this, that, right? When he was like 17, and he was calm and cool, joking during the entire review process. Dude turned right? But anyway, he was trying to get the life must be in person's head. He just, his tone of voice was almost proud. He's like, if you want to kill this project, you go ahead and vote on that. And like, a group of us, I turned to Tony, and was like, moving on. Let's just.
But I didn't realize he didn't look like it. And I did learn something else. But I didn't know that.
We knew the first key that was made in regards to. It was a cool project, the CPC was behind it, there was no public opposition, you know, the thing where you're building a whole house out of an apple core. Who in their right mind is gonna say no to that? I mean, you know, so you're taking something that's gonna sit there, you know, and you're gonna make it. And you were on Village Water.
When I got here, I used to get stopped by the police every day. So I said, everybody goes through that.
I think it's not the highest ever had.
The other properties backstage, still the same amount of services provided.
We were going to a concert with
Really,
I'm saying, the multi-family sort of, it's not, I mean, I should say that's it. I kind of ballpark that. I mean, it's a lot, but it's also like, oh, well, it's a lot compared to the freaking full rate. I feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for
trading tapes and everything, but they all came from, not the typical getting that they're portrayed.
Oh, yeah.
It was so weird because I knew it was a good thing, but they were all dressed in ties and suits and everything. It's pretty funny because it was not the image that we usually have.
Negotiate the town, whatever the town kind of comes up with. I always jokingly sort of say this only because I love to give somebody history or Bible lessons or whatever. Because like, as Jesus said here, review comes on earth will be good. You know, it's like a thing where it's just like, you know what, I don't even care what the number is. Just tell me, you just tell me what the number is.
Yeah, I didn't really know.
I had all kinds of stuff with the number is. Plug it in.
Yeah, you're right.
But I've got
I was in Arizona with a guy
labor for you don't trade.
I had my crystal.
connections there, but it's like, I said, 9 months ago, we had a conversation, we could have done something, but right now.
I said, I know it wasn't the
Not a great.
No, but it was some other group like that, it wasn't dead, but it was.
So they're being told that, you know, the plumbers are being taken care of.
That might have been more you.
And that's where a project needs to get expensive on the mechanical.
I don't know, my girlfriend was in
No, I'm saying, I mean, yeah, no, I mean.
Whoever it was
The
somebody.
site prep stuff, those guys are in and out. There's nothing right there.
Yes, otherwise I would. You know, again, now that he's being.
Thanks to brain surgery, you're back, you're alive.
Yeah, it's just, I never went to the concert.
I have to tell you what happened tonight.
I couldn't afford it. My kids don't understand how I do that, ACDC. You didn't?
No, but I went from Kingston Trio to Beautiful and Mary.
Well, I started with, I grew up with Bob Francisco. And I went to, music, Gourmet and 60s. Then I went to, then I started getting into, this girl. She was, into heavy metal and it didn't bother me. Battery operated jacket. Look, there was a lot of great. Battery operated.
I saw an interview on CNN with, what's his face, Robbie Roberts. I guess he did the music for the Wolf of Wall Street. And he was talking about how he was managed to take 50s blues and make it work for what was going on. And he just did this thing, and he said his son actually talked him into it. Violation 27 of the greatest acts, from Ella Fitzgerald to, all rock acts and stuff. And his 2 CDs, he said, I did it. And his son said he should do it. Oh, my God. His son would be able to know what good music's just to know, because it was good music.
That was a good 15 minutes.
Josh, what brings you out?
I've been out since.
Was that a good 15 minutes?
At a meeting.
I
just got out.
When the reporter left, he said, I said, how much you want to bet in 8-15 minutes?
It's past my bedtime, man. I understand.
Hey, last week I tried to watch the meeting, so I come home someplace, and I look here, and it wasn't until I caught it the 3rd time, because every time I turned it on, the gloves are on the mics, and I said, what is it, Michael Jackson's Spirit came back?
I got Paul Brown's email on something
And I
we
said,
already did.
she came home like an hour later, because we were both out, and I said,
He sent out a
I'm
message
trying to catch the
about our
meeting, they're obviously in the back.
We've been here so
but they got
long
these
that he didn't
yellow
have time to go
gloves,
home,
and then
right? So
finally
we
I
upset
caught the
it out.
meeting where I saw it came from the recycling center. But it was like the weirdest thing. They put the camera on, and all you saw was the gloves on the mics.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
And, and it was like, I said, what is it? The highway superintendent got bored. And then when I did see it and saw Susan showing the stuff, I expected to see half the shit in her house. The lamp and all that,
Someone bought one of the lamps.
I know, she told me.
Yeah, right there.
She said she didn't have the lamp because somebody bought it. I said, so how come you don't have the pocketbook?
He offered to pay for it in Bitcoin, which I also thought
We have a little QVC channel here during our breaks.
Well, that's what it
QVC.
looked like. It's exactly what it looked like. Oh, so I told Susan, but I'm gonna tell you guys, if I see it myself, you guys gotta do something about this.
About what?
I now get on a sub-channel, it's so weird, what a new TV, I get a sub-channel. So on regular TV, plugged into the antenna, I get these readings in high definition. George, but it's not channel 23, it's 22.2. And it comes in high definition, so it's beautiful looking. But the sound, this mic sucks. You need a mic that no matter where they're standing, it's going to pick them up. And I saw Ray Shilke once, but it was with some hot girlfriend for the weekend, so I didn't want to get into it with him. But I was complained to him that if he's your advisor on this shit, he's got to get you a better mic. These come through okay. I mean, you guys all come through okay, but this, half the people, you can't hear them. They're either over-modulating because they're too close, or they're too far away.
You get it on TV.
No, but when I used to, I got rid of my old little TV, because I bought new TVs around the house. So on the new TVs, the tuners are very fine. And there's all these sub-channels that Time Warner broadcasts.
Now, maybe because Gene's not
So,
here,
like if I put on channel 2, 4, or 7 on the regular 2, 4, and 7, it would like just the regular. But in there, I'm getting sub-channels, channel 2 in HD, YNN in HD, all that for the regular base thing, although they're going to wipe that out. But in there, on channel 22.1 or 2,
Does it show up in your menu as 22.1 or 2?
no.
Really?
Oh, it does? Well, there's a way to do the menu. Yeah, it'll show up on the menu. You can click through it.
Right.
But the menus don't tell you what they are. On the menu that comes through, very few channels are listed. Only YNN is, channel 13 HD, but that's all on the regular antenna for the base price.
something cool?
Antennas that don't have a box. Yeah. So
All right,
without
look
a
at
box,
this.
if you have a new TV, so I should come in next week.
I'm sorry.
You guys should
I did research
that-
and found the original town
Is that the
seal,
updated one?
and then I put it on Facebook, and
you
it asked for
looking for
graphic
it?
designer.
What do you need?
I'm just kind
You want to know how much longer you have?
Kinda.
It should go pretty quick. It really should. So we have to do this, this,
Yeah.
this, this, this.
You know, these are.
Well, and then there's a little bit more of that. But these other items should be 2, 3, 4 minutes
We're
each.
coming out with town board uniforms.
The village agenda last night.
Jumpsuits. Yeah,
I
it's
know.
gonna be great.
Oh, you were there.
I'm excited. It's gonna be like a fog machine.
Did you have a joint meeting last
We're not sure. how
Yeah,
it'll
just for a little
play
piece
out.
of Parks and Parades.
So when does this Beal stuff healing that you did?
Oh, it's almost all done.
What were you
I
peeling
looked-
for? I didn't think your skin looked that bad before.
No, it didn't, but you don't see the damage.
Yeah, no. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out.
I have sun damage over here.
Well, then you should get the peel.
I'm gonna do the laser thing.
Nah, get the peel done first.
giving
Then
you,
do the laser
I
thing.
couldn't handle going for that.
I was more red than he is.
Oh, yeah. I'll see it.
Are you doing the peel also?
My nose was a
Yeah,
mess.
yeah. I got it.
They told me to do laser.
My skin is so
'Cause I
soft now.
have damaged cells under the thing.
I had sun damage from years
Sun
of
damage.
exposure.
We're old and used up. We're not like you. We're not young
Fair
and
skin
chipper.
people like you.
Yeah.
So you get the cream, you put it on twice a day, and it kills all the cells.
Because, yeah, they told me she was going to be absent.
Faster
Jeff,
rate
did
than
you
they
guys
should
talk
be,
about, you talked
because
about the
they're natural.
Wilmerite thing at
So
some
it
point.
kills
You
them.
mentioned it.
Yeah, we did.
So what
Because
happens is it eventually comes up to the surface.
I didn't come because I heard you last week and I knew you were pushing it and other people were talking about it, but I went to a circus last week.
Yeah, they're going to, he left, who was there? Ken was there too, right?
Ken and I went.
Oh, Ken was pushing it.
I sort of got friendly with the supervisor before. So I-
John Coran.
Yeah,
John Coutan.
I've been a Democrat.
He's a Republican.
But a really nice guy, because I've met him once before. So we were talking before the
No,
meeting.
Kevin and I had met with him.
And so we were talking, and Ken did his thing about his
Oh, you guys have a much better
but
plan.
I came.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's going to cost, same it cost me about $45.
So, but I did a thing just talking to the public when I got done. I told Susan, I read these last one. I said, and you must come out or else you'll pay for all that. When I got done, he told the TV guy to put it on
December
the
28th.
public
And it's on their scroll.
scroll, and
Do we have it on our scroll?
I don't know, but he read the last
So
two
you didn't
paragraphs.
see me
Don't come out.
my
you know,
work.
Yeah, you're
And he
But were you at the
reiterated it and read
swearing
right to
in?
the camera. He was great.
Yeah, I was pretty good.
He just left. Paul just left those for us. Take them, hand them out.
Yeah, I've been doing my own thing.
Paul gave me a handful of those this morning.
Just by putting it on like this. And then
You know what?
I got a little close to mine, and there were spots, and so I kept going.
Because we really
It was just all over.
everybody needs to come out. And
like
my
you said.
speech that I gave at the group,
Probably
about
once
it,
every
I went with Ken and I said,
6 years.
I said, look, I don't care if you hate my guts, but we have to be united on this issue.
Because
Well, that's what he said. He goes, if we don't all back this, we're all going
they
to pay.
don't want
Like
to
that, so I said, all right, I'm just gonna
freeze
do
it
all the
off
things that I
because
can do on my
you could
own.
end up with
That's all.
But I wanted, I'm afraid of not getting enough people. I really want to fill that up.
I think we're going to fill it. I think we're going to be very surprised. You ready to start again?
Yep, we're ready. Okay.
It was only from 5 hours ago.
Yeah, it tastes wonderful.
Yeah, he left. he wants me to call.
This is great.
He wants me to call tomorrow.
By the way,
But
Roseanne,
if
you
Matt
should
was
be,
nice to me, maybe I
the
won't.
odds of you having damage, though, you should be fine, because you have olive-based skin and you're young.
But she's not Irish. Isn't it just because you guys are all Irish?
George has olive-based.
Aren't you guys Irish? Isn't it because you're Irish? Not that the yellow.
No, olive, like, you have more olive-based skin, so it reduces
we on?
the odds a lot.
We're not on
And
yet.
also, you're young.
We're talking about
It
skin.
usually starts hitting in your 40s.
Same thing he did.
Okay.
40s, 50s, you're
Okay.
a long way.
So, would you guys like to start the meeting again? Can we get going?
Yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna start.
good. Okay.
Thank you, everyone,
So what
for
I would
allowing the break.
Yes, we're sorry that we took the break. We usually do not like to do this, but I think everybody knows that the negotiations on the pilot for Park Point is probably one of the most pressing issues of the community, and so we have to address it when we need to address it. So what I would like to ask is for the board, for a motion to authorize me, the supervisor of New Paltz, to speak on behalf of the town at the public hearing on January 28th. On January 28th at
New Paltz High School.
at New Paltz High School at what time?
7 p.m.
At 7 p.m., that the board makes a motion to authorize me to speak, make a statement on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, so I guess we could move on to other issues, right?
So we part of the...
You want to do a couple of really quick procedural type of stuff, or do you want to get into the police commission discussion, or do you want to do...
Can we knock some of these items?
Yeah, so what we have is the veterans tax exemption was asked, if you remember correctly, Pete Sevago came and asked us, good night, thank you so much, George, for all your help.
George, thank you very much.
Okay, so as you all know, Pete Sevago came last week and spoke and asked us on behalf of the veterans of the United States and the veterans of New Paltz specifically, they already get an exemption, a wartime or combat, they get an exemption, a veterans exemption. We 27, 37, we had about $45,000 as the top for the exemption. The county has $60,000. We can go up to the maximum of the county, and so we were asked to consider this, and I think on behalf of the veterans who put themselves on the line for us to live here in a democracy, would somebody like to make a motion to...
So moved.
Second.
And just for discussion too, is the same exemption is being given from the school district. So not only are we doing it, we're actually, the school district and us will be giving them this tax
Which is
exemption.
correct. And just so people know, it is for veterans of the United States Armed Service who actively served during a period of war, and then it goes on. So there's a whole law in the Section 4.01 of the Real Property Tax Law, Section 458-8, that explains this exemption, explains the different categories and whatever. But, so we have a motion and a second to make the maximum 60,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, next, the town historian job description. Our newest member of the board, who is a history buff and who's serving on the Historic Preservation Committee, had talked about the fact of how to have a real definition for town historian and to sort of bring it up a little bit more to current times. So what he did was he did some research. I'll turn it over to him in a second. He gave us a definition of how he would like us to define the town historian role, and then where we go with this, we can go whatever. But I'll turn it over to you, Dan, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, what I will say is that I had brought this to the Historical Preservation Commission yesterday, and as you also recall, we had a joint town-village meeting, so they were scheduled at the same time. So by the time I got there, they were about winding down, and my hope had been to get their feedback and then bring that today. They wanted to look at it a lot and add a lot of things to it. I mean, the draft I have is very basic. I acknowledge that. So I'm going to ask if it's okay that we let them meet again.
Sure.
And then we bring back with their blessings and recommendations for it. I think that's appropriate, if that is okay with everyone here.
That's fine, terrific.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so next, Rescue Squad contract. As you know, we have a generic contract with the Rescue Squad. We approved $145,957 in our budget. The last contract we had, had the village in it, which the village is not party to this contract, and secondly, it had that extra $25,000 in there. What I wanted to do is have a straight contract on the $145,957 that's in the budget, get this approved, so we can, because on March 1st, we owe them the first payment, and they do need the money, and that extra $25,000, which the subcommittee is supposed to meet with the village subcommittee and the Rescue rescue squad to try to work this out before the village's upcoming budget, that we do a separate contract for that additional $25,000, but at least not hold up the $145,957 that we will be paying the rescue squad.
Susan, where did you get the numbers for paragraph 9?
I'm sorry, the numbers for what?
Oh, they provide that. That's the rates that they bill out for.
They drafted this, and then I made the changes where I took the village out, and I took that extra 25.
This means that they're going to bill out.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, quick question about this.
Sure.
And I just, maybe this isn't appropriate for this moment, but I believe at a previous meeting, there was a discussion about the pilot from Woodland Pond and how there was, I'm not sure if it was money owed or possibly also.
It's not owed.
ambulance.
In 26, they never even had a copy of the pilot. I gave it to them. Kevin and I, when we met with them, gave them a copy of the pilot agreement.
Yeah.
And I apologize, Dan, I don't have that file with me.
I do have it in the office, though,
But
so.
yeah, I believe it's 2016, and they get 100 and, please don't quote me, I believe it's somewhere between 150 and 175,000.
Okay.
Which unfortunately will no longer cover the cost of an ambulance. Unfortunately, it actually leaves them short of the cost of an ambulance.
Okay.
But they do have reserve funds. They have a vehicle reserve fund, vehicle replacement project, so at least it will give us a good piece towards it. The downside being Woodland Ponds is running anywhere between 20 and 30 calls a month.
Sure.
So this was when we were told they would run about 2 to 4 calls a month.
Okay.
So maybe part of the process needs to be to reopen some of our pilots.
Yeah, those pilots. Yeah.
There you go.
Part of the process. Yeah.
The process for the pilots may have failed us in this case, and there's a process. Yeah. Maybe it's something you could look into. So, I guess all in favor? Aye. Aye. Susan, I believe, said it. Ours already done?
But we have a majority.
There you go.
3-0.
Susan will be joining us.
What's next? New Paltz Views escrow? Did everybody see Arlene's calculation?
Yes, I did. And actually, did I have a question on that?
Did you guys move it second?
Yeah, it's all done. Yeah. We're on to the New Paltz Views escrow.
Which is why I ran up, because Arlene had to she had to fill in the numbers, and I know she emailed it to all of you.
Yep.
But I also had, talking to Joe Moriello, got wording for the resolution that we should do, and she was supposed to fill the numbers in, so I ran up to get it because she put it in my box and forgot to take it. So basically, as you all know, we worked on Lent Drive for quite a long time. We finally got the road done, dedicated, and had many a meeting on it, and so now it's time to return the escrow funds. So what the resolution says is the town board of the town of New Paltz resolves to authorize the refund to New Paltz Views the following. The original security amount retained was in the sum of $506,250, which was reduced with board approval to $150,000 in 2008. The town will be reimbursed $62,940.09 for consultant fees with respect to the subdivision and the road dedication. The town will retain its standard 10% performance bond in the sum of $50,625 and refund New Paltz Views the sum of $38,953.72, which represents the balance in the escrow account plus accumulated interest of $2,518.81 through 12/31/2013. So that's the resolution.
And we're going to be maintaining a balance of
10% of $50,625.
Right, and
which is
Chris,
right in
that's the
here.
amount that we agreed to when you were here a couple months ago?
Yeah, I just have the question. I don't think we ever settled the dispute on the easement. We're at lot 6.
Well,
That's a separate lot owner, though, isn't it?
I think that the piece that we did settle was that we were just going to maintain easement for your use only.
It was just
I think-
settled. I spoke to Joe about it, and I apologize because I didn't follow up on it. It was last week.
No, we're in the wrong time of year for it, but yeah, he needs to move that landmark, so.
Whether it was moved.
But I think, but if I,
never had to sign off on it, but I wanted some kind of end determination on it.
But I think, isn't that between the, I think when we ended up doing the dedication, didn't we incorporate into the dedication that portion with the lawyer, that had to be resolved, and we retained the rights to deal with that? But I think that's really more between the homeowner and the town, not the guy who built New Paltz Views.
Although we're going with the original, we
Right.
actually went, the language that they offered, we declined?
Declined.
Okay. We declined their offer. We appreciate their offer, it was declined, and if you need it, I have a copy of it at home. It's the actual final agreement is that we go by, which is that he needs to move that monument so you can access back to maintain the pond.
But whatever we did when we signed...
Move it, or he would give us access.
Right, but we did that with, we put that into the clause with the dedication, because that was a concern, because we had to deal with that, so we put the things into the dedication. This is just the actual money that we owe him for the building, the escrow account for the building of the project, and we keep it to performance bond of 10% of the $506,000 that we started with. We keep 10%, so we're keeping $50,000.
And some of that money is in case you need it to go and gain access. If he will not let you use access through his property, we have to do it. This is where that money will come from.
And I don't know if it makes any difference, but he still owes an outstanding debt to Easy Street Cleaning, which is the person who put down the original striping for his contract. I keep getting, I don't think it has anything to do with us, but
That's between them and...
calls from this guy to go after.
How long has the debt been in place?
Gotta be 6-8 months.
But that's between him and the...
No. We could file a lien against the property.
You need the microphone, Kev.
I'm just saying the creditor could file a lien against the property.
It's a $700 bill. He's just having fun recouping it from...
Well, if he did a lien, it would be against our road?
It would be against the land.
Be against the landowner.
So does that impact
New Paltz Views? No, it doesn't.
Well, we've taken over, it depends on if it would be against the road, it could be against the road.
Well, what we could do, I don't know, I'll ask you, Kevin, which might not be fair. Could we reduce this? Now, I do know what Arlene certainly asked for every single consultant's bill to make sure she could zero it out and feel comfortable. So at this point, if any consultant did not give us a bill, oh well.
Easy Street's not a
But
consultant.
no, I understand that. So my next question was, we could either reduce the 700 or it's not material to us. Okay.
So, Chris, if you want to give him Easy Street, maybe you could call Sam on New Paltz Views, or if you want to shoot me an email, and for a $700 bill, I think we can.
We're okay.
I think we can settle it. I think we can help him.
I have a question.
I apologize.
Sure.
So, yes.
I hope I can answer it.
Are you sure that we deposit these funds in an interest-bearing account?
I feel secure that Arlene vetted this very carefully, that Arlene was the one who found that we had never drawn down the money to pay the town back for all the consultant fees, which is why we're drawing it down now, that I feel very comfortable if these are the numbers that Arlene came up with, that yes, indeed, these are accurate numbers, because you could see to the penny. So yes, if she says the interest is 2,518 and 81 cents.
That on the balance that would have been drawn down?
The sum of which represents a balance in the escrow account, accumulated interest 25 through 12/31/2013.
So, I'm Kevin, and in talking to Arlene on Wednesday, I'm very confident.
Well, actually,
She actually has the spreadsheet.
If you actually look at the back sheet here, she actually says 12208 accumulated interest for 11/205 through 12/31/207, 49687, reduction of bond per approval, including interest 361, less total amount of accrued expenses paid from project inception plus interest earned. So she actually, if you look at it, 1108 to date. So she really, it's all.
So are we paying interest on at the rate that we earn interest from the bank? That's just a question. I'll tell you what, I'll call her tomorrow, all right?
Thank you very much. Okay, so did I get a motion in a second? I don't remember. It was so long ago. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, that's New Paltz Views. The MOA for the police, that's really simple. This board, the prior board, prior to Dan, there was contract for the police has not been negotiated in a long time. We inherited an expired contract. We told the police that we couldn't start negotiating until we got on top of the budget, because we didn't really have any sense, and it took so long with the controller and the AUD and whatever. So we've since sort of started negotiating, but we're doing some things with health insurance and whatever. In the interim, there had been a thing where the PBA was able to get comp time instead of overtime, and it was in the contract, but it expired. They wanted to continue it. And so originally it was like, well, no, until we negotiate the contracts, we're not going to continue it. I said to the attorney, if it's to our benefit to get comp time instead of paying overtime, why wouldn't we want to continue it? So it was agreed to by the commission and the union and us to continue it to 2014 with the understanding that it'll be a part of the contract negotiations. So
moved.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried, great. We finally took care of that, because that's been hanging over our head for a long time. Okay, okay, we just need to, when we did the procurement policy at the reorg meeting, for some reason, the building inspector wasn't included, so we just need to amend the procurement list to include building inspector. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we set the public hearing for the charging station. Authorization for the youth center director to purchase $1,500 of tickets for Six Flags, which we do get reimbursed, but we have to suspend the procurement policy, because our procurement policy says you have to get 3 bids, and he's not getting a bid from a place, casinos. I mean, he's going to Six Flags, or Six Flags, whatever. I think it's Six Flags. But he's not going to get a bid from the casinos,
Just
or a bid from...
Make sure he gets a discount, that's all.
He
Yeah,
does,
okay.
that's why he buys them so early. Actually,
Right,
he
okay.
buys them very early
So
because
moved.
it's just...
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motions are carried, and then we also just need an authorization to pay the master plan consultant, Court Laval, $5,000 for his contract, and that portion is going to be reimbursed by the village. We are doing this outside of the warrant, which is why we need to have a authorization outside of the warrant. What happened was, in the contract, he's supposed to get the first $10,000, and then the village would reimburse us $5,000, but we redid the IMA last week to have it very clear that 50% would be reimbursed to the town, so we needed to get that IMA done. We passed it, the village passed it last night,
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, so other than the minutes, do you want to, guys, minutes, did you want to do those real quick?
Or just do the police commission and then we'll
Or,
do the minutes?
well, we could just do the minutes, then we could do the commission.
Okay.
Okay, the minutes, Kevin, we needed you to approve the December 19th minutes, because
There was
Dan
only
wasn't
two of us
there and
here.
Kitty was, and it was only the 2 of us. You were here for part of it, but then you left, but without you, we can't approve them.
I left.
I know, but you were here for the beginning.
Right.
So without you, we can't approve them, because
I
we're,
can only approve the minutes that I was part of, correct?
no.
It's common practice that if you're not there, you don't vote on it. However, there's no rule that says you can't do that. So if it's going to be a big issue, I will vote for the minutes, just so we can get them on the
But
books.
the problem also is that Jim wasn't at the meeting at all. So that leaves me and Jeff.
Hey, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Let's put this over to the next meeting, so I have a chance to consider my options.
Our clerk
That's not
gets
part of the
really,
process.
our
Part of
clerk
the
gets really
process is
upset.
We're just trying to get him
To me.
approved.
Okay, so let me, just real quick, Kevin, just so you probably can be alleviated. You were here for the public input portion, right? But, and I think you were even here when we dedicated Evergreen.
I left when we started talking about insurance, right?
No, that's not this.
Oh,
This is a
the
different
meeting I
meeting.
was sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a meeting you were sick. Okay, so what we did was at that meeting, we had the grants update, we did the Walker Land Trust easement, you were here for that.
Yes, that was a nice presentation.
Yes, I know, so you were here for that. So you were here for a good portion of it, and the rest of it was really just, if you look at the back, a lot of it was just pro forma type stuff. So while he's doing that, because Kevin wasn't at the January 16th meeting, but the...
Victor Cornelius.
Yeah, right. So the 3 of us were at the January 16th. So while he's looking at that, can I have a motion to accept January 16th?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried, and Kevin will abstain because he wasn't here.
Yes.
Are you okay?
I'm okay accepting the minutes.
Okay, so I have, okay, so Jeff, why don't you make the motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the December 19, 2013 meeting.
And I'll second them. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so
Thank you.
carried. Dan, would you like to abstain?
for being
Okay.
part of the process.
Okay, thank you. Part of the process. Okay, so now the process is the Police Commission. So we had a public hearing. We got comments, Rosanna, afterwards? Did the people? So, okay, so we got those mailed to us.
And did we find out that there was one individual whose name wasn't?
Yes.
We got that? Oh, okay, all right, I probably just missed that, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Thank you for
Okay.
doing that, by the way, too, Roseanne.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so, I don't know, I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
I don't know, does anyone have any comments on the, Roseanne, do you have a copy of the, she should have the final official copy. Yes, yeah, you should. I think just, I guess for comments on it that I would have is, I appreciate everyone coming out and making so many comments on it, and I think a couple parts of for myself, a couple parts of the comments have helped us add a few pieces to it, and even some comments tonight I think will make people happy too. Amanda made some comments when she was here. One is that the understanding that the local law, changing the local law, so rescinding Chapter 34 of the local law, in a community when you have a local law, it restricts to what you can do. So we have a 5-member board, and it restricts to exactly what they can do. An interesting thing, like Amanda had mentioned, that maybe it could be something with elected officials and with a public individual. That very well could be a model we end up using, because under state law, you can do that. Under the law we have, you cannot do that, so to speak. It's a 5-member board, and that's the way it works. The commission it is silent on whether they can be elected, whether they can be appointed. The only thing that's in it does have to be someone's electorate in your community. So what we could do, it will absolutely give us more leeway to then work within the law. I know another big issue was having a place to go and voice complaint. Ira spoke very heavily about that. So along with this, I will be proposing a resolution tonight to have a police advisory committee, which we made up of volunteers in the community, community members, and what they will do is to hear any citizen complaints regarding police department operations within the community.
So Jeff, I have a question about that.
Shoot.
Can you just talk into the microphone?
This committee that you're proposing to establish will be reporting to the town board?
Yes.
And will they be holding their meetings in public?
It's a public meeting. They will have a public meeting. They'll be appointed. You'll have, I propose 3 members. If anyone thinks different, please feel free to comment on it. I was proposing that we would have 3 members that would be appointed by the town board. They would hear citizens' complaints. They would meet in public. They would then make advisory opinion, and the advisory opinion would then come back to the New Paltz Town Board.
Okay,
But, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
So they would meet, they would
Well, they would only actually have, this would be an interesting question. And see, one of the things that, with Jeff setting this up, when Jeff talked to me about it, what I said to Jeff is, we can, if we choose to go down this road, we can approve the establishment, but when we have our meeting to discuss about police issue specific, setting forth the rules, regulations, the framework, we can do it another time, because there are legal things we have to, like, in other words, if you create a citizens advisory board.
Well, that's actually, and I'll interrupt, this is actually just because, again, I mean, as Kevin will attest to also, is it's always good to seek where it's been done other ways. This is actually a resolution partially that I got from discussions from another community. So really, this is actually a legal resolution.
Right, no, the point that I'm just trying to make is that when you're talking about doing it in public, I'm not 100% sure if it's a complaint that somebody brings about a particular police officer, that might have to be discussed
Well,
in
it would
executive
be,
session, because,
absolutely.
you know, and so therefore, if the Citizens Advisory Board is really there for the residents who
It's actually not
feel...
a board, but let's be, it would be a committee.
A committee,
It's
okay,
a
if this committee is sort of like a component between, is like the citizen people, the citizens that people seem to think that they want, you know, there's a citizen, but if they're there only really to be the buffer to hear complaints, they might not be meeting in public because it's all complaints. So therefore, that's what I'm saying, defining exactly how they operate has to have some more thought, and we have to have the advice of our town attorney to establish that. So what Jeff is suggesting is, he's going to, I shouldn't be putting words in his mouth, but he's suggesting that along with, if we repeal the law, he wants to establish this tonight, but how we actually create the dynamics, we'll have to do it another
Well, the dynamics
meeting.
will be, yeah, and again, it's the same discussion we've had, or I've had, which is, I'm not going to sit here and say we know the exact structure of what it would be, and that's why the committee's function is to hear, here's how I phrased it, and again, I had this with discussions where it was vetted by attorneys in other communities, but committee's function is to hear any citizens' complaints regarding police department operations brought to the committee, and then to make an advisory opinion to the New Paltz Town Board. The committee will also be assigned additional duties as deemed necessary by the New Paltz Town Board. So again, I don't know the structure of it exactly or what other duties we probably all do have ideas, but if you set the structure as that now, then it gives you the flexibility. The other flexibility you have with a committee that is appointed by the town board is that, again, it is not a governing body. They don't have responsibilities to a budget. They don't have responsibilities to anything beyond what is assigned to them by this board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, one thing I want to add, you know, as we talk about the Citizens Advisory Board, I just sort of feel the need to say that as we've been discussing the police commission and its status, a lot of people have talked about, quote, police brutality, about complaints, you know, of how the police treat the public, that they need somebody to go to. Jeff and I did research, and we talked to the chief, and we asked how many complaints the chief has gotten over this last year and the year before. There were 8 complaints last year. There were 8 complaints the year before. Of those 16 complaints, 14 of the complaints went directly to our police chief. So the person who felt they had a complaint against the police department went to the chief to talk about the chief because they felt comfortable enough going to our chief of police to talk about a complaint, and were happy how it got handled and got resolved because it never came back to us, and so it was never a problem. So only in the past 2 years, 2 people went to the commission to form a formal complaint, according to what the chief has told us. I do believe in past history there has been problems with certain police officers, and there has been some concerns between the public and the New Paltz Police in the past, but I think over the past number of years, I think the police force that we have right now, I think is very respected by the community, is very respectful to the community, and I don't really believe there's a lot of complaints out there about how our police treat the public of New Paltz. So, you know, while we've been having this debate about the commission and this concern about, like, the public having no place to go, you know, it's just, I just think we really need to sort of set the record straight that I don't think that the police are wreaking havoc in the community of New Paltz, and that that the people need protection of a citizens group to protect them. However, it is important to the people. I mean, we are elected by the public, okay, and we are beholden to the public, and we can get voted out of office by the public. We appoint the police commissioners, so the police commissioners are political appointments, so to say, in a sense, you know, that they're independent of us is not true, because we can remove them at any time. You know, we as a board, I know that this, you know, our board, at least not you, but with Kitty, we kept our hands off. I mean, we never tried to influence you whatsoever. We never, like, you know, you had your role, we had our role. Yes, you kept me informed all the time. That wasn't always the case, okay? And that became a problem, but, you know, you did keep us informed, but we had hands off. But we could, like when you were talking before about town boards controlling the commission, okay? A town board can always control the commission because they appoint the people. So depending on who's on the board, depends on how a commission operates. Depending on who's on the commission, depends on how a commission operates. When Ira and I have been having conversations about this, and Ira's been talking about defending, why he thinks the commission's important. I said to Ira, you used to always complain about the commission all the time. You constantly complained about the commission, all the time, okay? Then Ira was put on the commission. Ira implemented the changes on the commission that he felt needed to be done, and Ira did a really good job, okay? But like I've said to Ira, when you leave, because you're not going to be there forever, the commission can go back to the commission the way it used to operate, which was problematic, okay? I've said the same thing to Ira about that there are certain people who have concerns with certain members of the board sitting on the board right now, that they don't feel comfortable with us representing, dealing with the police issues. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be here forever. So nothing's a perfect situation. You can have a town board that there might be problems. You can have a commission that there's problems. So I think we as a board, and then there are people that are saying, and I will make it very, very clear, at least from my perspective, people are saying this is political, okay, that this is, political payback. At the end of the day, people serve at our pleasure. It would be very easy to remove a person if we wanted to do it for political payback and not talk about changing a whole entire, repealing a local law, reestablishing and whatever. I don't think there's anybody on this board who's not making decisions based on policy, not for politics. And so I said to Ira when we've been having this conversation that you can criticize the commission in the past and you can criticize it going forward, but it's good because of Ira. You can criticize the boards in the past going forward, but the board's good right now because of certain people on this board. So therefore, the decision needs to be made based on what we think is right. When I first came back, okay, the first thing I was heard when I came back was the chief had problems with the commission overstepping their boundaries in terms of how he felt they were running the department, and he was constantly complaining, okay? The commission had problems because they felt that they had more authority than the chief thought that they should have, and they had issues, which is why at the very beginning, when Councilman Logan, when we first came on, asked us to repeal local chapter 34, I had said to Jeff, give the board time, let some of the members who never worked with the commission have time, but in the interim, let's try to fix the problem, and let's try to start to work on at least having clear definition. Unfortunately, town business, like ethics charges, okay, sort of took our time, okay, and then certain police officers, resigning took our time, certain complaints against certain police officers took our time. We never ended up getting to really actually finesse it. Okay, so, and then certain chairs of certain commissions may or may have not, fulfilled their obligations. It doesn't matter. The point being is we're at a point right now. Councilman Logan has been talking about this for a long time. When you look at state law, it's very clear, and that goes to what Amanda was saying earlier, okay? You can, by law, you can have, if you have a commission, and let's all be very clear, when you establish a commission by state law, the town board is giving its authority for everything that has to do with the police, except for budget, over to this commission, these individuals appointed by the board. They're giving up their authority, okay? So in state law, you can have if you have a commission, you could have the supervisor be the commissioner, which Jeff suggested that I take, and I don't think that's a very healthy situation, because I think when you have the supervisor having complete power at the expense of the board, who can basically talk with the chief and only the chief, I think it creates a bad scenario. And I said to Jeff, well, I trust myself, and I think I believe that I would, I tell the board everything. I don't believe that's a good scenario, so please, that's not the road I want to go down. The second choice is you can have 3 members of a commission. 1 person can be from the public, but if you have 1 person from the public, you have to have 2 elected officials serving, which is the hybrid that Amanda spoke towards. That is allowed under state law, okay? And that's how you have to do it. One person from the public, 2 elected officials, that's the 3. Then you can also then have 3, I think, people from, no, you can't have 3 people from the public.
There was, what I will say is that I went to the New Paltz Library to do the research on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And actually, New Paltz paid a police commissioner for $5,000 a year, which is also...
Which you're not allowed to do.
Which I was going to say. So we'll keep that in mind when I make this statement.
That's when we had a single commissioner.
A single commissioner that did not have 2 elected officials with them who got paid.
Who got paid.
2 things were illegal.
So, but what I will say
without
is
police
that
commissioner.
when they eventually did dismiss that commissioner, what I found was that they created a body of 3 private citizens, if you will, and then 2 elected officials. Now, what I will just say is, in regards to the conversation that we've had today, what I do like about that idea, and I would have to say we'd have to clarify if that is a legal idea, is that when we've talked about the finances in regards to the police department and having more of a say in that as a town board, I do think that that's a scenario where you then make up 40% of the commission, but you still have the public input as well with the other 60% of the commission. So I know that we're talking about this now, but I also would just like to float that idea out there as well, where you could maintain the commission and keep that kind of citizens' impact. And I understand that we have an advisory committee that we're talking about too, and when you still also have the town council having that added authority. And just to go back to your point, and I will say it for the record, I, without a doubt, knowing some of you guys for much longer than I've served here, and even just meeting some of you, that I don't think by any means that anyone here would play politics with people who have guns. I get that. But my point is...
Very good point.
We've talked today about the future boards or past supervisors and how things are done, and it does scare me, the notion that it may not always be that way. I have full confidence in the group here that that would never happen. But I am saying that there could come a time where you do see that, where there's a bitter election and you know what, Sergeant so-and-so supported me or Sergeant so-and-so didn't support me, so we were running mates and let's get together and let's do that. Again, for the record, I don't think anyone here would do that, but it does make me think about that for the future, and that is a scenario that does scare me. So I did just want to make that known, and I did also want to float out that idea, too, of having that mixed commission. And my last point, too, is that I am new to this, I admit that, but I think that we do have a good amount of work on the board, and we are now adding much additional work from the police commission, which isn't to say that I'm not prepared to do that if that's what we have to do, but I also do think that the police commission did certain research that was important to the community that I'm not sure if we would be able to do while wearing both hats. And I will also say, too, that I just lost my second point there. But,
That's okay.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that. Oh, yes, and my last point, too, is in regards to repealing the law, I don't think that that is the best policy, just for the fact that there may come a time where a town board would want to have a police commission. Maybe we decide tonight that that's not what we want to do. We haven't reappointed one, so I think it's January 30th, we become the police commission anyway. So I would say we should keep the law to not commit those future boards, because in the event that they do want to do that, they're going to have public hearings, there's going to be legal fees to create the law. So I would ask, if that is the road we're going to go down, to keep the law on the books. And then, again, if that's the will of the board that we don't want to reappoint a commission, then we don't do it. But I also just wanted to make that point as well. Thank you.
Susan, make just one quick comment.
No, we're done. We did public comment already. I
Okay,
do
it's-
want to hear, I want to hear what Kevin has to say, so no, I don't.
Say something.
So,
Well, actually, and I will make it is, for the knowledge of the board too, is Ira actually was put on the police commission by me. I actually had, you can say no, but I fought.
It's on tape, Jeff, so you say whatever you want, it's on tape.
Okay.
The only one that you put on tape, and it is on tape, and that's why it can make...
Anyway, never mind. Kevin, please give your...
Okay, okay.
Let's have some more
Okay,
discussion,
okay.
right? But that's what we're doing.
Okay.
So when you balance the pros and cons, okay? Now, I know that from my experience on the board, there was often many discussions about who had authority over what. So, to some extent, the law is clear about what happens when the town transfers its authority over to the police commission, but nowhere in the law is there a correct delineation among the various parties to this equation.
Well, the delineation is the problem between the police commission and the chief.
Well, here's the problem. You have the police, you have the police commission, then you have the town board. And so in the meetings that I participated in, there wasn't an understanding between the chief and the police commission over their authority over certain matters. And I know that we had many meetings on that, and there were disputes over that. So in general then, what are the pros and cons that we're really seriously looking at here and evaluating what we're doing going forward? What are the pros? The pros are that you have a group of people that are doing work that the town board doesn't necessarily have to do, right? What are the other pros?
The other pros I would say is, yes, they're political appointees. That's the term we use, and I admit that. But I still think, even if it's just a perception from the public, and if you think about open meetings laws, that's how we talk about it too, even if you're creating the perception. But there's the perception that because you are not bound by an election, that you do not have that influence. Now, I understand that there is still an influence because you're appointed by an elected body, but I still think that there is a benefit when it comes to making those decisions to maybe not having a full collective board, but even having part of those boards being non-elected officials.
So there's a perception that the commission is insulated from the political will of the town board.
Yes.
Okay, so that's another pro. Give me another one.
I think that when we talk about the work that we do as council members or as the supervisor, that there is a benefit to just having us focus on those issues and then having either a part of us or more of the public dealing with those police issues to do various research like we saw the police commission did on Park Point and things like that. That's not to say I don't think that we could do that, but I'm saying that I do think it would be a good use of our time to be able to focus on other issues as well.
So that more relates to the workload issue.
Yes.
So we have two, I'm trying to flush out so that we can make
absolutely.
a really good decision about what we're doing. So what are the other pros for it? What are the other pros?
I think those are the biggest points.
Those two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are the cons?
The cons to it, I'll be fair, is when we talked about just the financial situation that Jeff brought up, we still have 3 people who are not elected who are making a number of those decisions. I think that is certainly a con. And I will yield to my other board members for other cons.
I think the other con was that you had people that were appointed telling the town board what the policy would be. I think that's a con. That's a con that I see because, you know, in a way, when you give up that authority, you're entrusting it to people to make good policy as well.
Sure.
So when the town board has a perception that that policy isn't being carried out, we were told, you don't have authority over us. It's none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a con, because here we are, we're elected to represent the public, and we take an oath to do that, and so we're basically being told that you have no authority over us, you can't tell us what to do. And sometimes you do have to tell them what to do, or you do have to give them suggestions about what they should be doing. So I think that's a con.
Mm-hmm.
Any other cons?
I think one of the cons is even to the converse is when you have a body that is not elected. So they are not an elected body, and they're not beholden to being in the electorate. And we can use the example of going back to even the very first, when I was living in this community, and I'm sure Susan remembers it too, was, the very issue of a police commission came about going all the way back to pepper spray. That's how long this goes, and we had a community very divided over it. I remember coming to a town board meeting and having a community deeply, deeply divided over the purchase of automatic semi-automatic rifles, the AR-15s, M16s, regardless, and that also became a very divisive piece. I was sitting on this board when a police commission approved tasers, but yet we had a huge amount of our community come out and speak against tasers, and we were basically told, all you can do, we're approving the tasers, all you can do is approve the budget or disapprove the budget, and if we didn't approve the budget for it, we're just going to go and take it out of it's an allowable expense to take out of drug money. So it was actually, that's what we were told.
No, I'm just saying, the only reason, on that particular case, the board has to approve seized asset money, so, I mean, the votes were on the board to do it, unfortunately, but yeah,
Right.
but...
We were just being told, here's all you got. We decided to do it. So it's taking away, actually, that layer. I think another one of the one of the big complaints that we heard was that they have no place to go, they're going to lose a place to voice a complaint. Well, the data shows they're not voicing their complaints through the very vehicle that it was really set up for, and that vehicle has since been, I don't want to use the term lost, but it has certainly changed in its charter from the way it was established, which is a very good goal, which is to establish it as that. The reason being is that there is a reason why no other communities in any of the counties surrounding us and in most of New York State do not use police commissions. And I'll just use, Susan and I actually called Town of Ulster, and there they use the supervisor is the police commissioner, and then they use 2 board members. So they have a 3-member commission made up of the supervisor and 2 of them. They did, because they're able to then make the decisions that embody a huge part of their budget. We take on the responsibility and everything that goes with our police department. Now, we're very fortunate, and Susan and I were actually pleasantly surprised to see that the majority of our community trust our police force and trust our chief to go directly to him with the complaints, and they're not going to the police commission. That speaks a lot. I don't know if we had that 10 years ago. And I'm saying the word 10 years just to give another example of a time period, so that is no knock on the police force 10 years ago, but I don't know if that perception is as strong as it was in the past. I do not believe we have a police force that is being brought up, people feel they are a brutal police force or a disrespectful police force, or that we have a lot of problems, because we don't. It's a very good force. As far as the work too, this is what we were elected to do. And the work that needs to be done, if there are special projects, it's why I would put into the police advisory committee, I put in even the sentence, is deemed necessary by the New Paltz Town Board. If we feel additional duties deemed necessary by the town board, if we feel there is a project that we would like them to look at, software, we could assign that to them, and they could go and study that issue for us. If we feel there's some type of issue that we think that is just too much for us, or may benefit both the police department, benefit the community, benefit the committee, they can then go and report back to us. If not, this is what we were elected to do. We, as elected people, we are elected, though, to make the decisions that control this town, and this is a huge portion of our community. It's really the only, even with Chris sitting here, I'll say it, but it's the only 24/7, 365 department we have in this community, so it does take a large part of our budget. The same with Highway. Highway has its own elected official. We don't have an elected police chief here. We have a police chief that signs a contract directly with us. Let's take responsibility for that full contract. And, in the case of Highway, which is a very substantial budget too, we actually do have our community elect that to maintain our highways and our roads. To maintain the civil order of our community, the community has entrusted us with the power to select and continue each year to renew a contract with a police chief. We should be taking responsibility for everything that's under that chief.
Do you think that eliminating this additional administrative layer will help us in the future negotiate contracts on time, rather than, how many years are we without a contract now?
Well, I don't know how many years before we came into office, the contract was expired before I came in, 4 years?
So
I've never been, I'm yet to sit on the board with a contract in date, and we also,
that's my question is, how do you think the elimination of the police commission will either facilitate or not facilitate that process?
In fairness to that, I don't really think the police commission is responsible in any way for the delay of the contract. It's squarely on the town board's shoulder. The town board should have taken responsibility to negotiate the contract. Why they didn't, I don't know. When we came in, the first thing we did was we knew we had contracts, but what we did at the very beginning was make sure we called all the unions to say, we know the contracts are expired, we know we have an obligation to renew them, but we're walking into a financial mess with the controller's report, that...
My point is, if you're closer to the equation rather than one step removed, is
I think there's 2 layers to that question. Again, it's the town board's responsibility. So if the contracts are late, it's squarely on our shoulders. What I do think is, though, in the contract negotiation, if you're dealing with the police on an everyday basis, where you really know what the issues are and what the problems are and the problems aren't, and what the concerns are, there aren't, what the chief has, or whatever, the issues when you negotiate might be a little, you might have better clarity on the issues, but, you know, I mean, right now...
Negotiation would occur day to day rather than once every 12 years, right?
Example being, because in contracts, you know, head count, for example, comes up in contracts. So you're absolutely right. You're discussing head count. I think when we are working with our chief and his subordinates, the chief can't always make it. He'll have a second in command come and speak to them. I think we will, actually I know we will have a much better idea of the daily, day-to-day operations of our police force and give us a better sense of when we are sitting there actually discussing what does it take to run, and I don't want to put any of you on the place, you know, out of place here, but, you know, do you really understand an A line, a B line, and a C line? Do you know what they are? Do you know those hours? Do you know why they need to man them differently? Those are really the day-to-day operations that we should be understanding very, very clearly. And when you're dealing with a month in, month out, you will. Saying go out and see it once or twice in a year doesn't help you as much, but it would certainly help, I believe, everyone on this board. When that is what you're living all the time, you'll have a much better understanding of that, and I believe that will assist us.
Drive more efficiency?
Can we use a microphone?
Ask a clarifying question or two? And this is a genuine question, but it's my understanding, and I admit I am new to this board, that the police commission makes a recommendation, and we'll just use tasers as the example. And then, as the town board, can we not say, as we establish the budget, that, you know what, we are going to take a special vote just on that item, and if we so choose, remove that item from the budget? So they've made the recommendation, but then we kind of make that choice. Am I incorrect in the notion I made?
Well, you might be correct in your notion, but you might want to ask yourself why you want to operate that way.
But my point in saying that is that we say it as if
That's
the
a check
police
and balance, you're
commission
saying.
makes the decision, and that's the end of the story. But at the end of the day, we do make that decision. And my other point, too, is, and I'm not saying this to criticize anyone at the table, but when we talk about communication breakdown, it's at least my opinion that if there is a communication breakdown between the chief, the town council, and the police commission, that's also very much the fault of the town council, as you appoint the members and you set those guidelines. If we don't understand whose role is what, that's equally as much our fault as it is the police commission.
That's what you have in Congress, though.
No, but I will say...
When you're dealing with two separate entities that feel they have ultimate authority, that's where the conflict occurs.
But, yes, but then wouldn't it also be our job, too, to try to better clarify those roles, so we can start to work ourselves, work our way around
that's what we tried to, I mean, that's what, when I first came on and Ira was the chair, and all these issues were being brought to our attention, and I had asked Jeff to hold off on us potentially, you know, repealing this, because he had asked, like, the very first meeting that myself, Kevin, and Jean were sitting at, you know, which he did to you, but, you know, so welcome to the, you know, the club, he's consistent. It was the very first meeting, Jeff brought it to the table, and I said to Jeff, look, you know, give Jean and Kevin a chance to work with the commission. I had forgotten that Jean had been the liaison at the village board or something, so she had experience. I had forgotten about that. But at the end of the day, Jeff said, okay, and then one of the first things we did was try to start working on clearly defined rules and regulations so we wouldn't have these kind of conflict and problems or whatever. And we had a public meeting where we had Bill Wallens come down from Albany, we had the police commission there, we had the town board, and we went through the history of the commission, and then we started to go through taking the whole law and going through point by point by point. We did it for about 3 hours, and then we were supposed to, like, you know, continue and have another meeting. That never got set. We had some meetings just with myself, with you, with the chief, and with Bill Wallens, trying to work on this, but then all these, like, you know, all of a sudden, Kevin and I were hit with an ethics law, then we had this and we had that, so we just got waylaid, you know, kind of stuff. And so what I'd like to sort of go to, in a way, is I agree that okay, well, let me just step back for a second, because we've been criticized.
By the way, before you make your point, what I like about this is the discussion.
Okay.
And I will say that in my past experience with prior town boards, I would come in and offer some reasonable points about discussion, and the vote would occur right after the discussion. There was no further discussion by board members about the issue, so I really appreciate all the remarks and the input. I do.
And I think, too, and just to follow up on Kevin's, and I just pulled this out, but to follow up on Kevin's other question, and Dan, on yours, and so I'll use the example, too. This example right here is an example of the efficiencies between a department and this board. You know, here you're seeing directly a piece that is going to, that saves us money.
You're talking about the memorandum, you're talking about the memorandum.
Using comp time. I'll use, you know, as much as we've had long, heated discussions, it has always worked out, and Joe has worked with us. This town board is the one that has, along with Joe, has reduced the head count of the police department and yet maintained the same efficiencies and coverage. This town board, and when I say this, it's the not these exact members, but this town board, over the years, and this is a consistent piece that Joe will bet on, that he and I will discuss at a budget meeting. Every year we have the same discussion, and Roseanne's got to be, for a few of them even, she's had the fun of being at them. But we have reduced also overtime expenses. And again, these are the efficiencies that we have driven through the department by working directly with the chief. I'm not saying that the commission should have done this, but it's part of the day-to-day operations, and that these efficiencies have been driven through the town board. There may be many other efficiencies that we're going to be able to drive and shake out through the town board, working very, very closely with the chief and his subordinates, and understanding how the department works and what other efficiencies are we looking for. You know, we've been able to not reduce services, and yet we are reducing expenses. We have a very tremendous, and we're very happy about this, is that every one of our unions that we've spoken to, and I give credit to Susan too, because she did make the phone calls to the unions. They all understand what every union understands basically in the country, which is its healthcare cost. So yet we're maintaining the efficiencies, and yet our costs are continuing to rise no matter what we sit here and do. So we're going to have to drive efficiencies in other areas, and these efficiencies involving us flattening out our management levels. And I will use Chris as an example. Chris, when he ran, never signed up to be running
building, grounds, and water.
Buildings and grounds, running a water department, running sewer, you know. Chris, as you know, is always here, but if you take a look at Chris's boots right now, you'll notice they're muddy. Chris left this meeting because he was crawling around in a ditch for a water leak because it's negative 40 out, or I don't know what, it felt like negative. It's cold, but that's where, you know, now Chris, I mean, you know, when he was elected, he didn't sign up for that. He didn't sign up to go out and play with water, but that's what he does now.
Can we just give him a little plug and say he's the greatest highway superintendent in building?
I think we should all thank Chris, though. He actually did. He left the meeting to go and deal with a water leak, and he came back to close the meeting down. But these are the efficiencies we're driving, and, you know, did we come on here to drive out? You know, we are less in our head counts in our buildings and ground and our sewer and water because it's more efficient to be closer to the operation, and that's one of the big goals here too.
Okay, so let me just, because I think there might be an answer to this, but, you know, whatever. I think, and I think even Ira would agree, and whatever, there have been problems with there's been a problem with commissions in the past. There could be problems with the commissions going forward, okay? There's been problems with the town boards running police, you know, being in charge of the police, and there will be problems in the future going forward, okay?
There's been problems with town boards.
Okay, so that's exactly right. So at the end of the day, you can't make policy decisions on people, you've got to make it on policy, okay? I do think when we first started, you know, at least our administration, we understood there were problems, we tried to solve them. The problems did not get solved. In some ways, it got exasperated in a way because of the people and the players and whatever, okay? So they did get exasperated in a sense. So now we're here where we're at. We have you recommending 3 members of the public, 2 elected officials.
Yes.
But by state law, you can't do that right now, okay? So just hold that for a second, okay? But it's not allowed by state law. Amanda made a suggestion, which you can do by state law, but Amanda was suggesting you have some kind of configuration similar to what you're saying, but within state law, you can do the 2 and the 1, okay? So I think there seems to be somewhat of an agreement in a sense that we might want to redefine how the commission operates right now, okay? So therefore, the local law that we have on the books is not a local law. The reason we have a local law on the books is because if we created a police commission, we could have created it under the statute, and we would have operated under the statute. We did for a while, but at a certain point, the town board of New Paltz, at a certain point, chose to do a local law of 3 individuals, and then later expand the 3 to 5, because they didn't have the guts to make changes to the 3, so they added 2 more and made it 5, okay? So that was a great reason to make it 5, okay, but at the end of the day, they did, okay? So we have a local law because we went outside the boundaries. What everybody's sort of saying is, if we do a commission, it's being recommended we do it under not under a different framework, okay? So, regardless, if we were going to go down your route, we'd have to repeal this law, do a new law anyway, because we're going outside the boundaries. We could
amend the law?
I'm not 100% sure, and we'll go back to that for a second, okay? When we was criticized, so I will bring this in because we were criticized for how we put this on the agenda. Part of the reason Jeff wanted it on the agenda, the reason I didn't originally want to put it on the agenda was because I agreed with you. In the same sense, I said to Jeff, I don't necessarily want to repeal the law. Let's keep the police commission. Let's keep the law. Let's us act as a 5-member police commission. Let's address the issues. Let's try to get on top of things. Let's figure out the lieutenant. Let's get on top of all these issues. If we think it's too much work, and either way, we're going to have a separate meeting. If we think it's too much work at a certain point in time, and we want to revisit a police commission, at least then let's figure out how we want to revisit it, and let's delineate the roles and responsibilities before we repopulate it so we don't have the problems that we've been having. So that's why I didn't want to put it on the agenda. Jeff and I had a conversation about it. We made phone calls. We called Bill Wallens. Jeff still wanted to put it on the agenda, so that's when I said to Jeff, come that night. When we do the agenda, you have the right to add anything you want to the agenda. Jeff added it to the agenda. I think the reason why the 3 board members voted for it that night was because we weren't making a decision. All we were doing was setting a public hearing for the public to be able to come and speak, give us their input, and then for us as a board to have a discussion like we're doing tonight. So it wasn't like we slapped this on, did it behind everybody's back, whatever kind of stuff. We had already made up our mind, because if we did, we wouldn't be sitting here having the conversation. Jeff would have made the motion, we would have voted, done. We could have all gone home 2 hours ago. So, when Jeff brought it up, it was like, okay, fine, we're setting a public hearing. We weren't making a decision. So here we are now. So I think where we're at, we've appointed ourselves as police commissioners for the moment, starting January 31st. I do believe, and I think we all believe, that we need to take a step back. We need to, as a board, spend time working on police issues, that we're going to have to set a special meeting, working on issues, getting our hands a little bit more dirty so we really understand where things are at. Then we can figure out, and so the decision is, do we repeal this law tonight? We start acting, we have a separate meeting with the 5 of us, where we talk about police issues. While we work on these issues, at a certain point, then we make a decision whether we want to establish a new commission defined as you recommended, or, not, or we just say, you know what, this is fine, let's keep operating this way, or we say, you know what, let's just take, let's go back to 3 people that, has nothing to do with us. I don't know where we want to go. Yeah. I do think we have to address the issues that have been a problem for a long time. I think we as a board need to start to get on top of some of the police issues. I think that if we ever do have a commission that doesn't involve elected officials, that there has to be written into the law communication that has to go on, because again, Ira was wonderful about communicating with me. Not every commissioner was like that, okay, but it's the truth, okay? And Ira, no, you came into me this past year, and you'd come in and say to me, did the chair talk to you about this issue that you need to follow through on? And I'd say, no, the chair didn't come talk to me, so tell me what I'm supposed to do, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, okay? So there were inherent problems, okay? So if there's ever going to be a commission populated of people that are not elected officials, there's got to be clear delineation so the board is not left out in the cold, and whatever. So there's a lot of work to be done. How we want to go about doing it, I don't know. So we have really at the moment, I think, because I think we all agree on moving forward in terms of us at least operating for the time being to figure something out, whether or not we want to repeal the law, work together, and then reestablish something later on under the guidelines we want, or not repeal the law, the five of us act as commissioners, and we go down and see later down the road what we want to do. To me, I think those are, at least for the moment, the two options I see, so we could bring this to a conclusion, but...
Well, we'd repeal the law, and then when you repeal the law, we would be the supervising agency over the
Well,
police department.
if we repeal the law, then the town board just assumes the responsibility of the police department,
yes.
you know, and stuff.
We're going to do on an interim basis anyway.
We're doing it on an interim basis anyway. So what Dan was saying was not to repeal the law. We, the five of us, act as commissioners for the time being, and then we can always make a decision if we want to amend, or just repeal the law, do what we have to do, and then...
I have a couple questions I want answered, all right? So the first question I want answered from council is...
Council, okay.
Not me. From council is whether we can amend or not. That's number one. Because if we can't amend, then obviously it might be repeal, okay? All right, so number two, before we take the step to repeal, let's have kind of a new operating kind of model, at least framed. And Jeff, I think your idea of this review board is excellent. So let's model that more so that we know where we're heading, okay, going forward. And I'm fine with taking action on that basis. That's what I want to do.
So what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting we get answers.
Well, you can modify any law. So any law at all, you can go in and modify as far as you want. You're really basing this off of, it's all, if you want to go up and grab the book,
It's on my desk, it hasn't left my desk.
Probably at 172. The modifications that I would suggest and where they come from, Kevin, is just, again, not from operating within a vacuum, but talking to other communities. And that includes talking to Esopus, talking to Lloyd, Highland Lloyd, talking to Deer Park, talking to the town of Ulster, is the statutes under that section give you a lot of leeway of systems that have already been designed that have proven to work. Does that make sense? Are you following me? Are you follow what I'm saying?
Do you want me to go get the book?
So if you use, in other words, there are different structures you can create under GML, under the town general municipal law. Those are the structures, as you and I have discussed. I don't know where we're going to be, absolutely, along with what Susan is saying, what Dan is saying, what the final structure is going to be.
Okay.
It is not going to be the structure we are going to go into. This is going to be an opportunity, though, with us being close to the police. We have issues that we do need to take care of. This will be our opportunity. The structures that we can choose from are several under GML.
Okay.
That gives us the best opportunity. If you're going to continue to work with a law, you have to then amend the law. Each time you amend the law, you're going to get yourself into more expense and trying to design something that the state already has designed for towns in New York State.
So you're saying...
Why most towns don't have.
So let's then, maybe I had the scheme wrong. Let's identify the structure first.
That's what I was going to ask.
And then figure out whether it's repeal for sure in order to gain that new structure. So we know kind of what we want to do going forward in terms of the proximity of the town board to those issues. So why don't we identify the structure that
Which I agree with, by the way, because we don't know what that structure is.
Why don't we get that and identify that and then do what we have to do? I'm just thinking that as an option.
Yeah, and a part of that, I assume, as well, is checking out some of the options that we've talked about here and then the public has talked about as well to see if those are even legal avenues. They simply may not be, but to check that out.
Under the state law, because unfortunately I've been reading it for 4 years, most of what was discussed here is legal under it. It's a combination of elected officials and you can bring in a non-elected official.
Well, actually, I mean, in the law states 2 elected officials, 1 non-elected official is how you create a police commission. What you're suggesting is, is doing a local law to make it 5 people with 3, individuals and 2 elected. So, but yes.
And those structures are, and those are the structures that are available. The pieces, and Kevin, you asked this question too, do you feel will be more efficient with not having that additional piece and to having a single individual having to report to 2 individual bosses?
Well, I think we as a board will be better off having more communication than less. So if you have a structure where some of the members are board members, then you're going to have that communication that we haven't had.
Well, yes, I will agree with that. The structure, though, that you're looking at is to maintain a structure, though, which still puts a piece between those that are embodied to make the decisions and another governing body which is now going to be between those decisions. You still are not going to solve the issues, some of which arise, which is the issues of who has control of which piece of this thing we call our New Paltz Police Department. And that's one of your big issues. So you're still maintaining that piece, and that's the piece that we can, lack of a better term, fix by going back to what New York State has written already for towns all across the state, which is by using general municipal law, where it already exists, that structure exists. And then for the relief valve of the citizens, then we create the citizens
So
committee.
let's flush that GML model
Okay,
out.
I just want to there was a time when there were 2 board members and a individual, and I think the rest of the board, again, it's relative to the people, because I think that created its own problems in its own right.
Well,
That they
I
were.
just wonder, that is the point I'm trying to make, is you don't want it ever to be relative to the people. So if you're going to have an individual police commission that is not the board or not embodied by the board, then you're still going to have, where you're going to be concerned about
the players.
people. Even in communities, and Susan, you and I spoke to a community that has, they worry about the supervisor who is the police commissioner, to your very
So
point.
you don't want the concentration. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you have had.
concentration?
Yes, you have a problem. Which is again why I said to Jeff, when Jeff had suggested that I become the commissioner. It's like, again, I said,
That's
Jeff,
too
you
much
never want to give much power into one person, okay?
I withdrew your advice.
It's like, I was like, Jeff, it's like too much power in one person. Again, well, I'll tell you guys everything, because I don't want everything to be on my shoulders, and I want you all in bed with, actually, excuse me. I want you to all have the responsibility for the actions that we take, so it's not me alone, even though I get blamed for everything, but regardless, I think that having one person having all that power is not a good, healthy thing, and I said, Jeff, I don't want to do it. But in the past, when there's been 2 commissioners, 2 board members, 2 board members and a commission and 1 individual, I think in itself there's still been problems with the 3 other board members not really knowing what's going on. My basic feeling is, it's like I would feel more comfortable with the town board as acting as the town board, or the town board, the 5 members right now under the law that we have, that we have 5-member police commission, the 5 board members become the commission. If you don't want to, get rid of the law, in a say, but for at least now, we're the commissioners. But I think it's got to be the 5 of us together, or maybe at some point, I don't know how you make it work, but I really, really believe that you don't segment, elected officials in a way that creates the ability for other elected officials to.
And so, well, I hear Kevin correctly, too, so I think then, maybe what we should be doing then is, not to put more on Kevin, but all of us, I will distribute out to all, or you can all just grab it off, is let's all flush out more through general municipal law. We're all going to be meeting as the police commission, but we need to choose a date in February, at least one. So we need to do that regardless. So let's flush out what we see in GML. I hate to put more on you, Kevin, but
Well, I can meet and talk with Kevin, because I've read it a million times, so I think I'm an expert on GML.
Unfortunately, Kevin, I can pass a quiz on it too if you want to call me, but there's probably sections in there that you could assist us with, and then we can continue this discussion both at the police commission meeting, and then we can continue this discussion again, what is it, February 20th?
Okay,
I think we
okay,
meet?
so if I understand correctly, what we're going to do is we're not going to repeal we're not going to repeal it for the moment. We're going to keep the law on the books. We're going to be acting as the commission for the time being. I went over with the chief the dates. I had thought originally the police commission meeting is the second Thursday, but that night has never really been good for the chief. So he had asked, so we went through I went through with Rosanna, whatever, where all the meetings are. So what's available is the first Monday or second Tuesday of the month, or the first or the third Wednesday, the third Monday or third Tuesday of the month is when we could meet separately as a commission to deal with police issues as we try to flush this out going forward. First Monday or Tuesday of the month, and then there's CWASP and ENCB for those who are on it. So I would have a meet, and then the following third week is the Monday or Tuesday. Then there's historic preservation and then town
The only
board.
thing I got about the first Monday and Tuesday is this Friday, and we're all kind of, Tuesday we have the meeting at the high school. Thursday night we have a meeting in Ulster County.
The second Thursday of every month.
So you're talking about the
Friday you and I we're going to be here for
Teamsters.
So, I mean, I don't mind doing that.
Well, no, it's a one more in February. The nights you're talking about are all January.
Yeah, I'm looking at the end of January, but if we go to February,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking about
third or
the
fourth.
first
But
Monday is the
we have a
third.
busy end of this week if we're going to be doing some research. So,
Okay,
I
but
mean, you
the
think
first Monday is the third, the first Tuesday is the fourth.
I'm good with that. I'm good with the Monday or
I'll
Tuesday.
make whatever works.
Okay.
First Monday?
Okay, so you want to do the first Monday, which is February 3rd?
What time?
7:30?
And I just will apologize in advance. I may be arriving, that's just a 12-hour nursing shift for me on Mondays, Tuesdays, so I will be arriving either right at 7:30 or just a few minutes.
Okay, so just so we
I
can,
will.
just so we can establish the agenda, is that, I mean, we will have the chief there, and we will have the chief talk to us about police issues.
Yep.
We probably will have to have a conversation maybe about the contract, have a conversation about some other issues, and then if we want to have a discussion after that about, the different options of a commission or whatever, we can continue that conversation. So if that's okay with everybody,
And can you just let can you have Carol let,
the chief know?
no, one, let the chief know, two, and let public access know.
Oh, public access, well, public access is here, so,
wanna make sure.
so, public access, you're not going to be coming and taping the 13th, which is what's on your calendar, you're going to be taping the 3rd on Monday, okay?
And also,
And-
they were notified also about being there.
Yeah, they know about, they know about Park Point.
They know about that there, okay,
Yeah,
good.
okay, and, I thought there was something, okay, so that's the plan, is the 3rd we'll meet to, as a police commission, and we're not repealing the law. And with that, any more discussion?
No.
Any-
We did all the minutes.
Yes, so do I have a motion to
So
close?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. What? Are you shocked?